fantastic resource card that's the size, basically an oversized bookmark.
Bookmark.
And it's double-sided, and it's loaded with resources locally and in this area for parents, for treatment, for prevention, for anything that you may need. And we have them in the Board of Health, they have them at the fire department, they have them at the police department, so we're all trying to provide that information whenever we come across anybody who may need it.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
I'll leave these over here.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you. Next on the agenda, we have Kathy Simmons here to receive the Chelmsford Women of Today proclamation. And Selectman Joyce, would you like to come up to the podium? Selectman Joyce is going to read the proclamation for you. Good evening.
Good evening. The Chelmsford Women of Today is a nonprofit organization with a long history of community service in Chelmsford. We are affiliated with both the Massachusetts, the United States Women of Today. We are a unique group in that we offer free personal, individual development programming and health and wellness programming to our members, as well as team building and friendship. We also give them the opportunity to make a difference in their community through service. We have a very full agenda as usual. Starting with this weekend, we walk to end Alzheimer's. The walk is in Andover, and anyone who has Sunday morning open and would like to join in the walk, it's at Brickstone Square. We have game night. We are sponsoring and working at the Table of Plenty on October 27th. On October 31st, we are providing a Halloween party for the children at Alternative House. We'd like everybody to mark their calendars for December. I know December sounds like it's so far away, but September came quick. Muffins with Santa on December 12th. It will be held at the Unitarian Universalist Church in the Center from 9 a.m. to 12. It gives the children an opportunity to visit with Santa, to make crafts, eat, run, play, games. It's a great day for all of the children. In fact, most of the parents love it more than the kids. Funds from that event are helped to purchase items for the wish list of the Chelmsford School Children in Need, as well as the Chelmsford Schools gift program. On April 3rd, we'll be hosting our 6th annual Spare the Violence Bowl-a-thon. You all know what that is.
Yes.
And the proceeds go to benefit with Alternative House and all local charities. It's a very successful project, and we invite the selectmen once again to join us and for the community to put together a team for a fun-filled afternoon of food, prizes, and bowling. The Chelmsford Women of Today this year donated to other local charities such as the Wish Foundation, the Live Smart program, Table of Plenty, Friends of the Library, Our Father's House, Little Iguana, Chelmsford Open Space Stewards, and special teams for exceptional people. We have made and donated children's quilts to Project Linus and distributed them to our local hospitals. And we've sent boxes of paper goods to House of Hope, bags of stuffed animals to Project Smile, and many packages to our troops overseas. Other projects that we do for Alternative House include Mother's Day, gifts for the children to give to their moms. We provide the moms with some gifts at Christmas time. We provide baskets for the children at Easter time, as well as a lot of personal items throughout the year. They usually call us and let us know what they need. Each year, we also coordinate a very successful food drive to help fill the Chelmsford Food Pantry. So watch for us again on June 18th. In between all this community service, we do a lot for ourselves. So we have a lot of fun as we're doing these. We have socials and programs just for our members. We want to thank the Chelmsford Selectmen, especially the community and our local businesses, for all the support of our organization for our projects. Of course, membership is our biggie. The more members we have, the larger impact we make in our community. Our membership is open to anyone over the age of 18, and everyone is welcome to join or come and sit in one of our meetings. General membership meetings are held on the third Tuesday of each month, right here in the town offices now, in room LL06. For more information, you can call our membership program manager, Donna Sievers, at 978-1809, or me, Kathy Simmons, at 978-256-8592. We encourage everyone to check out our website at www.cwotma.org. Look for our calendar or stop by one of our meetings.
Wow.
Thank you.
You have a great list of events coming up. Thank you.
I have the special honor tonight to read the proclamation. In 1983, I was a member of the Chelmsford JCs, and we had what were called Chelmsford Lady JCs, or JCS. And this was the
Way back.
base of Chelmsford Women of Today. And I'm proud to say that the person that was active then is still active now. So it's a great organization. Town of Chelmsford Proclamation in recognition of the Chelmsford Women of Today. Whereas the United States Women of Today and the Chelmsford Women of Today have set aside September 20th through September 26, 2015 as Women of Today Week to recognize the many community activities of dedicated Women of Today members across the nation. And whereas the United States Women of Today is an organization of almost 3,000 members in 12 states, and whereas the United States Women of Today and the Chelmsford Women of Today are dedicated to promoting public awareness and service by participating in programs such as domestic violence awareness, our local alternative house, Chelmsford Secret Santa Fund, the Food Pantry, Live Smart, the Chelmsford Free Spaces Stewardship, Friends of the Library, Table of Plenty, the Lowell Wish Project, and whereas the United States Women of Today and Chelmsford Women of Today provide personal enrichment and leadership training for its members, and whereas the United States Women of Today believe that we are dedicated to serving our community and nation, committed to strengthening our individual talents, and stand limited by our friendship and belief in the future. And now, therefore, we, the Chelmsford Board of Selectmen, do hereby proclaim September 20th through September 26th, 2015, to be United States Women of Today Week, signed this 14th day of September 2015. Matthew Hanson, Robert P. Joyce, Laura Merrill, George Dixon, and Janet Askenberg, and sealed by the town clerk, Honorina Z. Maloney.
Right. Congratulations. Great job, Bob. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, under public service announcements, we have Kathy Cryan Hicks here to discuss Fall Fest. Saw you over there, Kathy. Good evening. No rush.
Hi. Thank you for this opportunity to let people in the town know about Fall Fest. This year, the Chelmsford Cultural Partnership decided to hold Chelmsford's first Fall Fest on the first weekend in October. And there's a lineup of different activities. You can actually get to the schedule by going to the library's website, chelmsfordlibrary.org, and put /Fall Fest and get all the information and the schedule. Actually, there's a link from the front page of the library's website. Some of the events, it starts on Thursday, actually, with a farmer's market, the last farmer's market of the season. And there's an event at the senior center, an arts event. Then on Friday night, of course, it's the first Friday, so the CCA, the Chelmsford Center for the Arts, will be holding its first Friday art reception, and that's from 5:30 to 7. The big event for the library, who I represent also, is Stepping Out. It's a harvest dance, and that's Friday night at 7 o'clock. We have a classic rock band called the Usual Suspects coming, and we're bringing in a dance floor. There'll be some nice lighting in there. We kind of transform the library into kind of a nightclub, but it's a great opportunity for people to come in and talk with one another and chat. There'll be hot and cold hors d'oeuvres. Harrington's will be coming with beer and wine for sale, if because we have that beer and wine license approval coming up on the agenda.
See how that goes.
We feel hopeful. So
You're already
in-
advertising that, Kathy? I don't know.
But the other thing is, it is an after-hours event, so we have a $25 fee for the tickets. And there's a lot more information online. On Saturday, we start in the morning with a Mad Hatter Tea Party at the library Saturday morning. It's the 150th anniversary of the publication of Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, so we'll be celebrating that. But the big event on Saturday is the crafts fair on the Common, and some other members of the committee are organizing that. Susan Gates and Evan Belansky. They're recruiting artists and craft artists, also food vendors, and it's a good opportunity to let you know that if there's a food vendor in town that would like to be involved in this, they can still get their application into Evan Belansky, and that's on the website. The application is there. We'll have some entertainment from some of the local performance organizations. Dance New England in North Chelmsford is sending over some dancers, and Music Elements right over here on Summer Street will be sending some musicians and singers and so on. And that's all Saturday. It's from 10 a.m. until 4 p.m. Then an art reception at the library. We have a Lowell artist, George Chen, who does some beautiful paintings, and we're going to not just have the public get to meet him, but we're also having some classical, traditional Chinese music. We have an ensemble of erhu players. Erhu, it's a two-stringed instrument, and it's absolutely fascinating. We've had them before. At the CCA that afternoon is Yankee Notions. There'll be a new in Yankee Notions, by the way, it's $15 per family, or $5 for individual at 2. And also during the whole day, 1 to 5, there's an author signing and book sales sponsored by SIPA. It's the Society for Independent Publishers and Authors. It's a new organization in town. It's a great way for writers in town to network, and publishers. They'll be doing some panels and things like that also. And then at 7 that night, there's a cabaret night with Aiden's Clan. You can purchase tickets online. And on Sunday, the CCA Stage Series presents a jazz vocalist, Connie Diamond. And from 2 to 5, the Garrison House will host a Colonial Crafts Day over at the Garrison House. One thing I do want to mention, thanks for having that up there. This is a draft of the passport that we're hoping that we can get visitors and residents to come to the center and visit the center, as well as the 3 venues, the CCA, the library, and the Common. And what we're looking for are businesses in the Center Village to sponsor a leaf. And we'll actually print these passports off and send them out to hopefully all the families and schools, and through the library's website and so on. And we're going to have the vendors who participate. Right now, these are the confirmed ones that we have actually more that aren't up there yet, because this is an older version. But the business will get their name on here, and Tricia in Paul's office is getting some plastic transparent leaves that are going to be different colors to give to the businesses, so people will visit the business to fill in all the colors on these leaves. And that's the beech tree, if you didn't recognize it. Because it's not there for anyone to compare it to now, so we can get away with this. But I want to also just give a thanks to Roberta Witz at the Picture Yourself Gallery for designing this. And what we'll do is type in the names of the other businesses who decide to sponsor, and we're asking them all to donate some kind of an item for a raffle basket. The raffle basket will be raffled off on Sunday at the CCA just before the concert in the afternoon, Sunday's concert. So we are, looking for sponsors. But this booklet will be printed off and passed out for people. The businesses will have copies, as well as, we'll be sending it out to the school's newsletter. So I think it's kind of it. There's, all the details are on the website, so please take a look at it, and you can link to even further details. So.
Well, that passport is a fantastic idea, and you have a great array of events lined up. Very excited about that. So,
good.
Thank you for sharing that with us
Thank you.
this evening.
Okay, thanks.
Have a great night.
Thank you.
Questions from members of the board?
Great job.
Okay. Now we'll move on to agenda item number 3, which is open session. If there's anyone here who wishes to address the board, I do see quite a few people in the audience, so I may just ask that you try and keep your comments brief.
Hi, I'm Jan Spence, 816 Wellman Ave. I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank this board, the previous Board of Selectmen, former Selectman Jim Lane, and Mr. Cohen for all of your work in securing the FEMA grant for the stabilization of the riverbank at Williamsburg. Greatly appreciated. Know it took work on everyone's behalf to secure this, and it finally appears to be coming to fruition after a kind of a significant amount of time. But it's kind of nice to be able to stand here and say thank you for something that, this board has achieved for us. Thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
Jan, you're very welcome. And actually, Beverly Woods is here from NIMCOG, who really helped spearhead the effort from there and getting the other communities on board and getting the information in.
I am aware of that.
help.
I was here when Beverly spoke 2 weeks ago, and it was a very busy evening, so I didn't have the opportunity. But thank you also, Beverly. We really appreciate everyone's effort, and we're hoping to see that this, really comes to fruition, because it will help so many of our residents.
We're
Thank you
excited.
very much.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak under open session? Yep. We can line up at the podium. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Pat Wojcik, 24 Elm Street in Chelmsford. You probably already know that. I just wanted to come and give my 2 cents regarding the Regional Emergency Call Center, which I understand is on the agenda later this evening for you to take a vote. And just in the interest of full disclosure, I have been pretty closely involved with that process from the beginning. I was actually asked to be on the committee that selected the vendor who completed the first feasibility study for that several years ago. We did have a lot of questions then, and there's a lot of questions now, as I've heard and I've seen. I do support the idea of going to a regional emergency call center. When we first started talking about it, it was, in my mind, a fairly new idea. It's not a new idea really anymore. There's a lot of regional call centers, even in Massachusetts. There's probably half a dozen or so, at least around the Commonwealth. Some that have been in operation for 5, 6, 7 years, and they seem to be growing, not shrinking. There's other communities that are trying to join those call center facilities. So I think that's something that we should keep in mind going forward. I think it's important to know that even though we'd have a regional facility, the person who would be answering the call when you dial 911 is most likely going to be the same person who answers the call now. And as far as the person who responds to your home or the location where you may have had an accident or something, it's going to be the same policeman, the same firefighters, the same ambulance. That's not going to change, and I think that really is a very strong point to make, because we do have a great set of staff and first responders in town, and that's not going to change. I think what has to be important to note that will happen is that we'll have better technology, we'll have more enhanced training, because we'll have a better support staff at a regional call center. It's my opinion that eventually Chelmsford and most communities in the Commonwealth and in the region at some point are going to join a regional call center, whether it happens in 2 years or 20 years or 40 years. I think it behooves us to get in at the beginning of the process, where we can have a stronger voice about how the facility will be run, what the policies and procedures might be, how the management is going to be, who's going to be on the executive board, and so forth. If we were to come in later, we'd have to basically follow whatever rules are set up in advance. I think this is an opportunity to partner with other communities and get the best practices for what's done in each of those varied communities and put all those into practice. So the people that are going to, the ones that are going to benefit the most are the consumers of this service, which are the people out there, the residents of this community and other communities that call 911 and need a response immediately. So I would strongly encourage you to vote to move forward with this program at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Good night. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak under open session? Oh, would you like to? Do you want to come line up maybe on this side? Just you next in line.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Town Manager Cohen. Sam Chase, 5 River Meadow Drive in town. First of all, I'd like to thank the chairman because I know he has spent quite a bit of time on the issue of the regional dispatch and also Beverly Woods. And ultimately that work is a benefit regardless of how the board chooses to vote on this issue. I was here 2 weeks ago to hear the presentation, and I was very impressed with the fact that the presentation by Beverly was very informative. I was also very impressed with the rebuttal, for lack of a better word, that was presented by the dispatchers. The dispatchers spoke very, very passionately in favor of not regionalizing and keeping the situation local, and they raised some very, very good points. I was also very surprised to find that the towns of Westford and Billerica still haven't taken the initial step of regionalizing within their own town. They still maintain separate fire and police, so I understand their reluctance to enter into the agreement, because to me that would probably be the first step before you would join a regional dispatch. There's no doubt about it. I think local people dispatching locally certainly have a very intimate knowledge of the geography and the people in town. And when you go to a regional center, initially, in the first stages, you may lose some of that. However, I have to say that the two chiefs that we have, Gary Ryan and Jim Spinney, enthusiastically endorse this concept, and their opinion, and I've known both men for many years. I respect them as consummate public safety administrators, and I can't even conceive of the notion that they would support any effort that would in any way jeopardize public safety. That's just inconceivable to me. So their opinion carries a tremendous amount of weight with me. They also seem to be quite adamant that if we move forward with this concept, they want the current personnel retained. They want them to retain their positions and be able to continue to deliver the service that they're delivering now. The fact that this is not new territory, there are other regional dispatch centers in the state and nationwide, also lends some stability to the notion of consolidation. It's not a new idea. It's been tried, and we have history. If I had my druthers, I would say, you know what, we ought to keep it local. I'd rather keep it local if I had my druthers. However, and some of you know me, I'm a long-term point of view type of guy, and I really believe that we have to take the long view on this and other related issues. And the long view is that we have 351 little kingdoms in this state all doing the same thing. And that is an unsustainable situation going forward. It's the reason that municipal budgets are as high as they are. It's the reason that property taxes are as high as they are. The only way we're ever going to get a handle on cost is if we regionalize. We have an opportunity here to get in, as Pat Woe just said, and said it very well, we have an opportunity to get in on the ground floor. If we do it now, we can influence the way that the center is going to be structured, and the state, as I understand it, has guaranteed a substantial amount of funding, which will offset our having to spend approximately $800,000 in capital to upgrade our communications equipment over the next 2 years. We'll get that money from the state. I strongly feel that it's only a matter of time before we are forced into this kind of an agreement. So I would rather do it now while we have some ability to control our destiny rather than have to follow state mandates. I think it's only a matter of time before we are forced into regionalizing other high capital-intensive activities. I think sometime within the next 50, 60, 70 years, we'll all be long gone by then, but I think it's inevitable. You're going to see more regionalization of police and fire and DPW. Those are the capital-intensive operations that the towns have to support, and it just isn't going to be sustainable going forward. So I would urge you to vote in favor of this proposal for the reasons stated. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chase. Good evening. Yep, we are still in open session. Good evening.
Finally. Hi, my name is Ruth Grivers. I'm from 10 Wilson Street in Chelmsford. I was born and brought up in Chelmsford, and I am against the consolidation. I have left, would I leave at your desk? I knew I was going to.
Oh, is this your petition?
Yes, the petitions, yes. We had got together and we're having coffee, and a few of us at the center was saying that we weren't crazy about it. I've been where a few of, times when the ambulance and that has come. I can't see if they move to Tewksbury that they're going to do it as fast as they're doing it now. It's pretty hard to convince, and not a one person said no to these petitions. Not one. They asked us what it was like, what it was going to, do, what was going to happen. I told them to the best of my ability, and that was it. They signed the papers, and I just wanted, hopefully, that you look through them. And we tried to get a little bit from each part of town because it was a short notice, so we didn't decide until, to do it until we were having coffee, and then someone said, Ruth, let's do this.
Sure.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ruth. Good evening.
Good evening, I'm Marion Schum. I'm not used to talking publicly, so I am one of your signatures of against this. I would like to ask the assemblyman here, have you ever lived under a regionalization system? I have. And I can tell you on 2 instances, which I'm very familiar with personally, that the long time getting police, fire, or an ambulance, the time rate is much. I'm very impressed having moved to Chelmsford. I'm living at 19 Sheila Avenue, and I'm very impressed with the work of the fire department, the police department, and the ambulance service. And it's far better than what I had witnessed under regionalization. There is a time lapse. And if you want to centralize, as the gentleman before me had some very, very interesting and very good points. But if you want to centralize, is there some other, they've tried it with schools. Is there some other department other than the, ambulance service or your police or your emergency services that you can centralize and save your money on, as opposed to what is far more important in my mind than what you've done? And I would hope that you would vote no. Thank you.
All right, Mary, you did ask a question. I would like to answer it. I believe actually we all do currently live under a regionalized system. There's actually 2 tiers. Almost half of our calls, the wireless calls, come in first to a regional center, then have to be dispatched secondly to our local center, which then have to be dispatched to the police. So all of us currently live, if you use a cell phone to call 911
If you
through a
use a cell
regional
phone, but if
through a
you use a
regional
land-
center.
Land phone, you go into Chelmsford, do you not?
Yeah, they have to be dispatched twice now currently. So you just asked if we live under a
Yeah.
regional system, and for a lot of us, we do currently.
In Chelmsford?
Yes.
Where does the call go to?
The call goes to the Essex Regional Center right now,
In
then it gets
Beverly.
dispatched to Chelmsford, and then the officer gets
Okay,
dispatched.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Cell phones only.
Yes.
Let's make that clear.
I think I mentioned that multiple times. Yes, thank you.
I wanted to say it again.
Yeah.
Anybody else? I'm sorry. I thought there was someone over there.
Oh. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak under open session? It seems like the next item on the agenda is, after committee vacancies is the vote on the Regional Emergency Communications Center. If anyone has any additional comments on that, that's not really a public hearing. Would it just be appropriate to have people speak now when we're already basically on the topic? If anyone else is interested in speaking on this, who hasn't spoken yet, of course, we did hear a lot of debate at the last meeting before we continued it, this evening before we move on. Okay, well, so we will move on to committee vacancies. Selectman Joyce?
Yes, committee vacancies as of 8/14/2015. There's one seat on the Board of Appeals, one seat on the Community Preservation Fund Committee, one seat on the Economic Development Commission, one seat on the Great Brook Farm Advisory Committee, one seat on Land Management Committee, Subcommittee. I'm sorry, that was two seats. Was it? No, one seat. I'm sorry. The next one's two seats. Public Celebrations Committee, there are two seats. Recycling Committee, there are three seats. Tree Committee, there is one seat. And Vinyl Square Strategic Action Plan Committee, there's one seat.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
We will now move on to agenda item number 5, which is the vote on the Regional Emergency Communications Center.
We can't hear any more testimony, or?
We have received some additional information. I don't know if you were planning on addressing the email from Jay Beverly, or if Jay is here himself. I don't know if I can see him here. You did have one additional meeting on the issue of state funding moving forward, and we do have an email on that, and we do have an email from a letter from the State 911 Department. I could read that into the record, though.
Sure. In terms of the meeting, Jay Donovan, who couldn't be here tonight, attended a meeting at the State 911 Department of a work group that has been put together by the state to look at strengthening the incentives for regionalizing 911 dispatch services. And the Secretary of Public Safety spoke at length at that meeting and expressed their intent to basically restructure all of their grant programs so that they will be rewarding those communities that regionalize and not providing as strong incentives to communities that do not regionalize. So the grant programs will be structured to favor those communities that regionalize. The state talked a lot about the fact that they really need to do this to not only encourage communities to strengthen their fiscal position, but to improve the state's fiscal position as well, because they're now funding all 240 PSAPs. 136 of those receive less than 10 calls a day. So they don't see that as a very efficient operation, and they're looking to change that. So I just wanted to let the board know that that is in the works. It will take effect with their 2017 grant cycle, and those grant applications will be coming out in April 2016.
Great. No, thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
Beverly. So I guess we can have discussion amongst ourselves first. I do have a few other comments, and I did want to receive the letter. We actually just received this today, I believe, from Frank Pozniak. He's the Executive Director of the State 911 Department.
We all got a copy of it, right?
Yes, you should have all received a copy of it.
Want to read it in? I mean, it's 2 pages long.
I don't have
It's
to.
what I expected from the 9/11 committee, so.
Right.
No
I mean,
no surprises.
I'll just summarize then. I do think it was an important letter.
If it was an important letter, Mr. Chairman, it would have been here 3 weeks ago.
That's my point, to be very honest with you. I was kind
No,
of,
not the night of the vote.
get the thing at 5:22 tonight, I would have liked to, I think Beverly just said something very strong. She said, strengthen the incentives. I would like to have discussed that at length with people. For a lot of reasons, so I agree with.
No, yeah, I mean, you're saying you'd like more time to.
No, I'm
discuss
saying,
incentives
all I'm
and
saying
things
is, I didn't like the timing of the letter, and that's it. No, I'm not gonna say anything, I'm just gonna.
No, I
you're the chairman,
understand. I
you do what
think,
you gotta do.
Yeah, Jay, as I understand, Jay just asked for them to send us a letter after the meeting, basically summarizing their efforts moving forward that came out of the meeting, and I think that's why this letter just arrived now. Maybe you could clarify, Beverly.
Right. Well, Jay was at the meeting. He had asked the secretary if they could provide a letter basically reiterating the state's position on their grant program, and that's the purpose of the letter.
Right.
the process for the state is that the secretary has to run that letter past the governor's office to get approval to send it out, and that's what took the time, and it did not get here until today. If we had had our druthers, it would have been written the same day, but that's not their process.
Thank you, Billy. And I want to respect all the work you've done on this. You've done a tremendous amount of work, and I'm sure you'll continue to do a tremendous amount of work on this.
No, that's a good point, though. Basically, the letter just reiterates what Beverly just said about the incentive programs moving forward and the state's position on it. I mean, I know that the chair usually speaks last. Does anyone have any comments they'd like to make before?
Well, I'd like to make a couple of comments. I'm certainly not, there's no doubt in how I'm voting. Everybody in the world knows. But a couple of speakers back, the gentleman said that Westford was doing it, and I have an employee of Westford sitting next to me. And what they're planning on doing is exactly what we have now, and that's combining the police and fire. So they're back about 23 years. They're not considering going into the regional. I've not heard anything about going into the regional.
That's exactly what he said, Bob.
It is.
What?
Exactly what he said.
That's what he said.
No, he said they were considering, Mr. Chase said they were considering doing the same thing.
That we did before.
Excuse me,
Yeah.
I don't mean to take up any more of the board's time than is necessary. However, I said, I was here 2 weeks ago, I heard the presentation, and the presenter said at that time 2 weeks ago that Westford still maintained separate fire and police.
Okay, I'm
That's what
sorry,
she said, and that's what I said. Thank you.
Okay, I misheard you.
It's okay to clarify.
Okay, also that same speaker said that there were many of these across the state. And I want to go back, I don't have a big map, but I want to go back to the map that was given to us. And the question I asked at the last meeting, well, how many of these do we have? And I think the message was under 10. Maybe it was more. But
13, I believe.
if you look at this map, and everybody knows what the map of Massachusetts looks like, the communities that are participating, the podunk places, I call them podunk because they have like 1,000 residents. They have a police force that's, some of it's called, some of
Say
it's
smaller
paid.
communities, Bob.
Smaller communities, okay.
There you go. It wasn't
I don't
so
know
hard, was
I
it?
don't know anyone out there, so,
You?
well, you know. But if you look at this, you will see that there are not that many. And for those of you who are old enough, in 1983, when I was on the Board of Selectmen the first time, we had a town manager come in and tell us we should have a Department of Public Safety and put up shiny maps like this, and it turned out there were only 3 in the state. So I don't think it's a mandate yet, and I find it hard to believe, and I'll call my reps, that they're going to give all the money that the people aren't going to get out of this to only the division or the combined ones. The reps are going to get so much pressure to help fund all dispatch centers that I don't think it will ever happen. And let's see if I have anything else. The comment that Chairman made about having a joint dispatch is misleading. Because right now, yes, some of the calls people make from cell phones go to Beverly, and then they are transferred to us here. But I find it hard to believe that the state is not going to provide cities and towns that have their own dispatch centers. They're not going to provide them with funding so that they can get cell phones. I don't think it's going to be, I don't think it's a big deal. I mean, the utilities, namely Verizon and all the rest of them, are going to have to deal with us. And they're not going to say, oh, no, you're not going to have it. And we're only going to give it to people that are in these dispatch centers. I think this is a bad idea. I've lived here almost 40 years. I've used the services. I know what the services are. I don't find that it's going to save money. The number was 111,000. We have the most number of calls, and we get 111,000, but yet Tewksbury gets 200,000. So there's something wrong here. There's something wrong with the picture, and the picture is we should stay the way we are and do it the way we've done it, and we always do it right. Thank you.
Are you saying you'd do it for 200,000, Bob?
Nope,
No, okay, I just had to check.
it'd have to
Sorry.
be more like $1 million.
A year? Over 10 years.
Yeah, and one thing I didn't add was that
I'm just
the
picking on you.
agreement. The agreement that they set forth, I don't know if Paul, if you read it, if town council read it? I assume you read it, because you're
Yes, I've
part of
read
it.
it. Yeah, I wouldn't have
Did
pretended
town
to without
council read
reading
it?
No, we've not sent it to council,
Oh.
Bob, because
Then we shouldn't vote on it.
No, Bob, the votes in the other communities were to approve the concept, and then you would proceed with the review, legal review. If I had set it to legal review, you'd be here criticizing me for spending legal money unnecessarily when the board hadn't moved in that direction.
Well, how can
That's
I,
how the process works.
How can I
We're asking to
approve it?
vote on the concept, Bob.
You're not
We're
approving.
not asking you to
No.
sign the
no,
agreement.
it's not a concept.
We're not asking the board to sign the agreement.
Yeah.
We're asking the board to move forward in a direction.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's, so once if you decide to go in that direction, then we will employ the legal counsel.
Yeah, but I have real problems with it. I read it from
Bob, you're gonna have
page
problems no matter what I do.
one. No, that's not true.
Yes, it is true, Bob.
No, you got some lights fixed for me.
But, that's true.
But I don't find that to be a good way to do it. I
So
think,
you want me to review everything with legal counsel before anything is considered with the board, despite the fact that the board hasn't taken a position
No.
that that's the direction the board would want to go? And then you would criticize me for overspending the legal
No.
budget?
no.
But
What
Bob,
do you want?
if
No,
I could
I wouldn't.
quickly, I mean, we're in a very vague area right now. I mean, it's set up, it's very basic, but the town managers of each town act as the executive directors, and the fire chiefs and police chiefs act as the organizational board directing the system. I mean, is it just minutia that you're upset about, or is
No,
it the whole
no,
setup?
The whole agreement. And if we vote yes on this tonight, it doesn't matter if it goes to town council. It will proceed.
No, we'll come back to this board for signatures. We're not going, tonight, you're not being asked to sign any documentation. The votes in Tewksbury and in Drake and the consideration here is to move forward in a direction. That's all it's about, Bob. We would not, again, we
And
wouldn't
I
utilize that.
thought this was really just kind of a
Cons-
draft, a
exactly.
sample agreement for us to
Exactly.
take a look at.
It has the basics of how it's going to be set up. but
Exactly.
I think that's open to
Well,
comments.
let's read the motion that was submitted as the recommended motion
But what,
and see if I'm wrong. Motion shall be that the town of Chelmsford accept the provisions of 18V, inclusive of Chapter 64, of the general laws providing for the establishment of a regional 9/11 emergency communications district. That looks like it's accepting it for me.
No, this is
no,
the Mass General Law that allows us to regionalize. We have to accept that.
Okay.
and then there's the contract for it.
And then there's all the other stuff about Drake and Tewksbury. As far as I'm concerned, if we approve this, we approve the concept and it goes forward. And I'm not willing to do it. Tewksbury gets a better deal. Where were you? Where were you on NIMCOG when Tewksbury was getting the better deal?
How would you else propose we fund it, Bob? It's one town, one vote, and you pay on the proportion of your calls.
Yeah.
That was that was our basis, and quite frankly, that's why Lowell didn't join.
Then
is
why
because they
is-
wanted a weighted vote?
Then why is Tewksbury getting almost 400,000?
Because it depends on what you're expending today for dispatch, and then what you would spend under the regional project.
It's not money we're being paid to do this. It's the amount of savings we're going to generate based not only on our personnel, but also our projected capital expenses over the next 10 years. That's how they generated the savings amount. It's different for every community, and it always has been.
Well, I don't buy it, because if
I know.
Tewksbury's going to get $400,000 out of this, yeah, why not approve it? They're going to get a brand-new building. They're also going to build a fire station next to it. I mean, there's a lot of bad things in this, guys. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if I sound like Donald Trump here, but there are a lot of bad things here, and I don't think we're ready to do this, and I'm hoping that the board will vote to reject this.
Beverly, could I ask you a couple of questions, please, regarding the strengthening of incentives?
Yes.
Could you give me a couple of ideas?
They have not come up with specifics. Right now, they've mailed a survey out to the people who are on this committee, and the committee is comprised primarily of police and fire chiefs from the various communities. And I think they're also going to be sending one out to the town managers to get suggestions from them on what types of incentives they feel would make this attractive for communities. They feel as though, they've tried to use incentives in the past, and they have two tracks they can take. One is to strengthen the incentives. The other is to start using the stick instead of the carrot. And they've said that they prefer to use the gentler incentive route, but if that doesn't work within a given time frame, then they're going to start to use the stick. But they would like input from the communities in terms of what is it that would make this more attractive for them.
Well, for example, I think Chief Spinney isn't here this evening, but I think he mentioned, regardless, we have to spend $400,000 whether we go with this or we don't. It's about a cost in the next fiscal year.
No, he expressed an opinion that in his capital plan, he has an $800,000 expenditure for equipment in the dispatch center.
Right.
He stated that if we went to the regionalized center, that request would drop down to $200,000.
$200,000?
Right. So there'd be a $600,000 net savings for the community, which again is all built into these annual savings that Matt cited earlier and is in the report.
But is that the type of savings, strategic?
Well, I'll give you an example of one of the strong incentives that are there right now for communities is that the state 911 department, and this will be true even under Next Generation 911, will only pay for radio equipment for communities that are part of a regional center. And I will basically reinforce that by saying that I'm not talking about just the radio equipment in the dispatch center, but also any radio equipment that are needed at the police station, in the cruisers, and any handheld radios that you might have that you would need to communicate with the regional center. So that will continue even under Next Generation 911. Under Next Generation 911, they will pay for every community to have the machine that they need to receive the 911 data, but they will not pay for the radio communication unless you're in a regional center.
Thank you.
Okay, that's part of my problem with this is I think that, if we were to get into it early, then we should be given a little bit of something. It's only, it's just out of negotiating, I guess.
And
whatever
I
it
think
is.
that's
That's not being disrespectful to anybody that's at a meeting or anything else. Just wait, if we got to give something, and also we have employees to think about. So that's only my opinion. I'm speaking for Judge Dixon, nobody else. I've had 300 calls on this thing. I've had threats. I've had a lot of different things. But this is just my vote, okay? Or my opinion. I stand on my own 2 feet.
right. And I think this is the intent of the administration, but I can't give you specifics yet as to what those incentives are going to be.
Okay, all right, so as far as labor is concerned and things, I guess that's something that would have to be, see, this is why, if we had that letter 2 weeks ago, and Mr. Posnick or whoever, with yourself or whoever does the negotiation, could have come down and we could have talked to people, and I'm not trying to put words in anybody's mouth, and I'm not trying to speak for town manager. I'm very confident in Mr. Cohen's ability. But in this particular instance, I just have, some questions. So
Sure.
I'm not solid on it right
Could
now.
I just comment on what she said? Don't say no.
Just be respectful.
No, actually, it's not towards her. It's the fact that here we have, how many were there to begin? 9 communities? Or was it 13?
Initially, we had 9, and then we went to 7 when Billerica and Westford decided not to regionalize. We still have 7 who are looking at the concept. We are doing presentations in the next few weeks in the smaller communities to talk about them joining Devens or Groton. So they're
Right.
regionalizing, but not part of this combination of communities.
But it certainly didn't make a difference to the city of Lowell that they would get all this free radio equipment, and they probably have 3 times the radio equipment we have. So I don't know if that's really a good argument that they're going to get radio equipment out
For
of it.
$1.2 million for fire.
Well,
Bob, but that logic, it made a difference in Drake and Tewksbury, so I don't understand the logic.
No,
You can always,
Tewksbury's going to get something out of it.
We're all getting the same thing out of
No,
it, Bob. They're
no.
not cutting it. Would
No.
you explain? There is no
Let me
special-
explain how the cost savings were
Getting more money.
calculated. Let me explain how the cost savings are calculated, because there's some confusion about that. We asked every community for information on what you now budget to run your dispatch center. Every community gave us a figure. We looked at what your capital equipment needs are going to be over the next 10 years, and we annualized that amount. So we took your current budget, we took the amount you're going to need to spend on equipment, and we subtracted out of that the grant funds that you now get from the state for your own PSAP, and arrived at a cost savings. So it's relative to what you budget now and what your equipment needs. It's not that one community is getting any more than another. In terms of the cost of operating this regional center, it was distributed fairly using a formula that's comprised of population and your current call volumes, which is the same formula the state now uses to give you aid.
No, thank you for clarifying that, Beverly.
So even though the numbers in here say 111,000 to Chelmsford, that's not real money, and the money for Tewksbury isn't real money.
It's not someone's not writing you a check for 111,000. It's a savings over what you're now currently
Okay.
paying to provide
Out of
that
our budget.
service.
It would be 111,000 that we'd save in our budget.
Per year.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah, okay, good.
All right.
But
Thought
then,
that was clear.
well, then the chief said the other night that he would have to put another van in the station, right?
Yep.
Is that gonna reduce that 100
Yep.
by,
Yes.
by 50?
And that's why, if you listen to what the chief said, he said his paramount concern was public safety, not driven by financial savings. And that's been constant from the fire chief and from myself as well. That yes, there's a financial incentive, but the true incentive, we believe, was enhanced public safety. So yes,
I think our public safety is pretty good right now.
and we can be better.
Oh, that's
I don't think there's any question on that. However,
No question.
until we get some of these incentives,
Let's let some of the other selectmen speak now. I think
or
we'll.
whatever,
I don't care.
Thanks.
They don't look like they want to.
just,
Okay. You good for a little bit, George? All right. Well,
oh,
let's-
I'm fine right now. I just, thank you,
Yeah, thank you, Beverly.
thank you, Bill.
Well, no, I just want to let some of the other selectmen speak.
Please.
Thank you. Jeanette, do you have any comments?
Okay, so, first of all, I'd like to thank Beverly, Matt, town manager, and everyone who's worked on this. I think you did a fantastic job over the years, and I really want to thank you for your work. So I really kept an open mind to this and was actually pretty excited about this idea. Because in the private sector, I see a lot of shared service centers that create a lot of efficiency and savings and that are very effective. And I saw this regionalization an opportunity to create a best-in-class dispatch center. You know, really getting the right people doing the right things, having the right processes in place, and, you know, delivering excellent service to our residents. And, you know, the savings was a bit of a bonus. And I'm a little skeptical, I think, like Selectman Dixon, on, you know, these grants and the sustainability of those grants long term. Especially, you know, before I sat in this seat, I was on the school committee for 3 years, and I'm very familiar with broken promises from the state on funding, unfortunately. Last Friday, I did take a tour of the dispatch center and had the opportunity to sit there and meet some of the folks and see them in action. And that was very eye-opening for me. I was able to see them take calls and react to those calls and really understand what they're doing. But what I was really impressed with was off to the side there was a screen, and it showed Varney Park. And I was like, well, you know, what are you doing there? And they're actually very proactive, and they're monitoring different sites all around town. And if they see something that doesn't look right or is a little sketchy, they pick up the phone, they call, and they'll ask a police officer to go by and you know, make sure everything's safe, make sure everything's good. And I was very impressed with that. And it made me realize that I think what we already have, or I know that we already have, is a best-in-class dispatch center. And I don't want to disrupt that. And as a matter of fact, I want to support that. And what I would recommend to this board is not only to vote no on this at this time, but to also look at the capital plan, because upgrading the equipment, giving these folks the latest technology is not on our capital plan until 2018, and perhaps we should accelerate that and get these folks the best equipment as soon as possible so that they can do the best job possible for us. So tonight, my vote will be no.
If you have any comments you'd like to share, you certainly.
I just want to say that, I've listened to what everyone has brought to the table. I've come to this question with an open mind, and it has, without a doubt, been the most heated topic that I have had experienced so far since coming on board. I've received more phone calls and emails, and other than the few people that have gotten up and spoken in favor of this, everyone that I've heard from is overwhelmingly against the idea of regionalization. I have also taken a tour of the dispatch center, and of seeing this video screens of Arnie Park on the side, it concerned me that we would then be taking this information and trying to put it in a regional center. And then that's when I started to hear that each town would be bringing their own little special piece of the pie to this center. And all of the standardization that we had started talking about and the gains from that, I realized there would still be this infighting of, well, this group wants these screens to be monitored and this group wants to be handled this way. And the discussion was that each town was going to have a lot of their own procedures kind of intermingled with this standard set. And that brought a lot of concerns for me as well. I don't see the financial gains at this point, and I really don't like the being backed into a corner of the money isn't going to be their threat. I've heard that so many times that it's just not, if it's right, the money will be there. If it's not right, then obviously there'll be other opportunities that come up at that time. So I think, and I have to say that up until the last few minutes, I've listening to everyone's comments. I've still been waiting to hear something that's to sway me in favor of this, because I know how much work has gone into this project, and it's I just don't think it is the time for Chelmsford, so I'm going to be voting against it.
Okay. That lays.
You ready for a motion?
Oh, I didn't get to go yet.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Cut me off. Well, I think I can, tell where the sense of the board is going, but I will share my comments. I don't look at $1 million plus minimum over 10 years as being an insignificant amount of money, first and foremost, for a board full of people who, have made that a priority, tax relief, savings, and all these other things. But it's not even about the money for me. That was a bonus, as many of us have stated, and as it's been stated from the beginning when Beverly gave her presentation, when our police chief and our fire chief spoke. I just want to say the executive director of the state 911 department, the governor, our police chief, our fire chief, the police and fire chiefs in both the other communities that were interested in this, all of the other selectmen in the other communities who are joining in, all of those people are in favor of this. They all see the benefits, and I don't lightly go against the recommendation of the police and fire chief who stood in front of us and said they believe this will improve public safety in our community in severe emergency situations. Therefore, I'm in favor of this. I will be voting in favor of it this evening.
Motion?
I'd just like to make one more comment.
Sure.
And I'll refer to Pat Wojcik, who we've all served with on the board at one time or another. And Pat has worked on this for a while, and she said over the years there's been many questions answered. But her final comment was there were still many questions still to come that haven't been answered. And that's what I feel. And I think that's what we are actually saying right now.
Yeah, I don't believe that's what she said, George, actually.
Well, I wrote it down. I don't know. Maybe that doesn't mean, I guess, whatever I write down is gospel. But she said that there were a lot of questions answered, and there were more questions to be answered.
Right.
Okay.
I think he did say, she did say that.
Is that what you said, Pat? No?
I think the
problem.
side heard some
Yeah.
different things.
Whatever.
She did say there were
Nothing
more
to do with
questions.
sides, it's to do with, no, it's just, I think it's inevitable that we're gonna get there eventually. I don't think there's any question. I don't think, it might not be tonight, but I think we're gonna get there. I think there are a lot of other things that have to be worked out, to be very honest about it. So, and that's how I feel, so.
And when I spoke with Chief Spinney, he had mentioned to me that by the time he does the backfill on the window, I mean, it's pretty much a wash as far as any savings. So, but again, that was for me a very secondary consideration. For me, it was about the delivery of the service. And again, I have full faith that we're already delivering best in class, and I see no reason to disrupt that at this time.
Can I add to that? And that is that not only does someone have to watch the window, and I don't know if that person is going to be capable of watching the prisoners. I don't know if there has to be a police officer or not, but you may recall that Lowell had a problem with a prisoner who died in custody.
This is a separate issue completely, Bob,
No,
so I'm going to
but
cut you
it's-
off.
no,
The
no,
dispatchers
it's-
don't watch the prisoners.
Yes, they do. We do. They do. Do you watch the prisoners?
There'll still be someone watching the prisoners there.
Who knows what their
They
capability?
can't not have someone there.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion. I make a motion that the town of Chelmsford and its Board of Selectmen reject the provisions of 180 to 18V, inclusive of Chapter 6A of the general laws providing for the establishment of a regional 9/11 emergency communication district, together with the towns of Dracut and Tewksbury. And I'll leave it there.
Is there a
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
You wanna read that again, please?
There's a motion here.
There was a motion in the book, and
So
I-
basically,
I changed
instead of making it to accept the provision, he's rejecting it.
You want me to read it again, George?
No,
You sure?
if that's what it is, to reject the motion?
To
Reject the
it.
provision.
Sure. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Nays?
Right.
1 nay, no abstentions. Motion fails 4-1.
Lisa Demers, Public Safety Dispatcher for the town of Chelmsford. I live in Lowell, sorry.
That's okay. Thank you for working here.
I want to thank everybody for their time, Beverly and everybody else. I mean, everybody did work hard on it. I think there's a lot we can do. I think we can move forward together. I think we can do a great job, and we do an excellent job for the townspeople here. And if you need us, I'm pretty sure you know our number.
I do.
Right. Is everyone staying, or we can give you a minute if a few people do want to leave before we move on to the next item, because we know it'll get a little rowdy in here.
This is, what do we got? Licenses, right?
Let's go to something easy.
The licenses, right?
I think that's, no, that's not.
That's why I wrote it.
Oh, well, the one day.
This is the why Judge would never would have combined police and fire dispatch.
Oh, I think, like I said, I think it's inevitable that the thing is gonna happen.
It's just not, you know, we had 3 years to straighten this thing out before it became.
We're not dead, I mean, they're still gonna go ahead, we can negotiate with them. I said in the paper the other day that we're going ahead whether we vote yes or not.
Thank you.
Yeah. All yours. Sure. Have me a coffee? Yeah, you can bring it up. You can.
Oh, that's not fair.
Is it?
I don't feel loved.
Sorry. I can pour a little in
No,
everyone's
that's
cup.
I wanted to,
Like,
Just don't spill it.
did, today I
It has a
couldn't
cover.
get here, 'cause I was tied up with the trade.
right. Looks like we're ready now to move on to the next agenda item. If everyone can settle. Great, thank you. Oh, well, thank you, everyone. Next item on the agenda, licenses. We have a number of one-day beer and wine licenses. Is there any? Sorry. Yeah, we may. Is that noise coming from the hallway? We may want to close that door at least temporarily if people are still talking out there. Just close it partially, maybe. Thank you, Chief.
Too late.
Quiet. Okay, settle down. Is there anyone here this evening to speak on behalf of any of the one-day licenses? Would you like to come up? Okay. Good evening.
We know you.
I'm here for 3 licenses, I believe.
Great.
The first is for this coming Friday night. A new show's opening in the CCA Art Gallery. It's called Dancing Visions. It's curated by me, and it is a collection of visual interpretations of dance and movement, historically and regionally, and all different genres of dance. And we'll be having a reception on Friday from 5:30 to 7:30. The second is for the 19th, the next night. Trudy Witham Jazz Quartet is performing downstairs in the Cabaret Cafe. And they're really a great group to come and listen to, and we'll be selling beer and wine. And what's the last one, October 2nd?
Yes.
Habitat for Humanity?
October 2nd.
That's their fundraiser that they do every year.
Great, fantastic. Do any members of the board have comments on any of those events?
No.
Any of the licenses? All the tip certifications?
I'd like to
are
make
here?
a motion that we approve, there's nobody else here for licenses, right?
No, you can approve them all, I believe. if you'd
Well, I was
like.
going to approve the
Make-
3 for CCA. Is
Yeah.
that okay?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the one-day beer and liquor licenses for the following dates for the CCA located at 1A North Road. September 18th, September 19th, and October 2nd, 2015.
I'll second that.
All,
Did he say one day beer and liquor?
Beer and wine.
Beer and
beer
wine.
and wine, okay.
I
Well,
said
what-
Sorry.
liquor.
I said beer and wine. but-
Oh,
I don't
okay.
want to get into, believe me, I don't want to get into serving liquor.
Oh, I could swear something.
No, it's beer,
Okay.
and-
I
just
heard
in
it.
case, beer
We'll
and wine
clarify beer
license.
and
If I'm
wine
the
for the
tips,
record, though.
if I'm the tips person, I don't want to be serving liquor, beer and wine.
Okay, all right, very good.
I'll second.
Second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? That's unanimous. Great.
Okay, I'd
Great.
like to make a
Thank you.
motion that we approve one-night beer and
Yes.
wine license for the Steppin' Out Harvest Dance, Chelmsford Public Library, 25 Boston Road, on October 2nd, 2015.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? It's unanimous.
I'd like to make a motion for a one-day beer and wine license for October 28th, 2015, for the Council on Aging, 75 Groton Road.
Great.
I'll
Is
second that.
Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Nays or abstentions? It's unanimous. Okay. Thank you, Bob.
Yep.
We'll now move on to our public hearings. First, under public hearings, we have the continuation of a public hearing for an all-alcohol package store application. Ashish Patel, AH&MJ Triangle Corporation, doing business as Triangle Package Store, 148 Groton Road in North Chelmsford. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, and Town Manager Cohen. For the record, my name is Angelique Eliopoulos. I'm here with the law offices of Eliopoulos and Eliopoulos at 9 North Road here in Chelmsford. And I'm here tonight with the applicant, AH&MJ Triangle Corporation, right now doing business as Triangle Store, for their location at 148 Groton Road. And as you said, they filed an application for an all-alcohol package store license. And so again, we're here from the continuation from August 10th. With me again is the applicant, Mr. Patel. He's accompanied by his daughter. And since the last meeting, there were some concerns that were raised. I addressed them officially to you and provided some additional information. So I'll just very briefly touch on the issues as I'm aware of, and then hopefully just be able to provide you a little bit more information.
Sure.
Okay? So very briefly, one of the first issues was Mr. Patel's experience. It's true, he's never worked in a package store. If he had been behind the counter at somebody else's package store for a few months, I'd be able to tell you otherwise. What I am able to tell you is that he's been the owner of a successful retail small business here in town for 6 years. That, accompanied with the training that he's received for the package store, he believes he is qualified and prepared for the challenge. There's no other training that's required by the ABCC or by Mass General laws. But because we know it's important to the town, we've identified another class he's more than willing to take, and that can certainly be a condition of the approval if the board so wishes. He'll also require that all employees are BAT trained as well. The second issue I just wanted to address is area need. I won't spend a lot of time on this. The Vinyl Square Strategic Planning Committee has identified a need in North Chelmsford. I know that they prefer that that need is met in Vinyl Square, but as my applicant is about a half a mile down the road, I think it's safe to say that potentially they could meet the need that the town has determined that there is. Next, I'll just talk briefly about truly what we consider the most, important, or, the thing that we take most seriously is the concerns of the residents in the town. And before I start, I'll say that my clients, as well as myself, not only appreciate their concerns, but respect their opinions, and I'm certainly not going to stand here and tell you that their opinions are not valid. My client very much wishes to be a good neighbor. I'll just remind the board that when they were here in front of the Board of Selectmen at the last application, they had a petition signed by over 70 patrons of their store that were in support of them transforming the business into a package store. So as always, on any project in town, there's going to be residents for and residents against the application. And again, we respect those decisions, but this will be a commercial use changing to a commercial use. And we know that some of the neighbors don't wish there to be a package store in their neighborhood. We also know that this board respects the type of business that my client is wishing to open, and certainly does not consider that kind of commercial use a questionable establishment or anything that is less than another type of business that could go in there. It sort of leads into the same discussion as the concern that the business was near a bus stop. Again, with respect, I don't believe that this is a consideration. It is near residents and a bus stop, like most other of the package stores in Chelmsford. Again, this is not a dangerous operation, it's not an illegal operation. It's a type of retail store of which there are plenty in town. Some of the town's most respected businesses are package stores and are wonderful citizens to the town. So again, while it's certainly a viable opinion that they don't want it, I don't know that that can be or should be enough for the town to deny it. Certainly in Vinyl Square, there are also bus stops. Again, I don't know that that's a policy of the town, and I would, I guess, just ask the board to question the kind of precedent that might set if that was a concern. And lastly, I know the board was concerned about an incident in the past where a temporary employee had sold cigarettes to a minor, and the store was issued a warning letter by the FDA. And all I can say to that is Mr. Patel was as concerned then when it happened as you are now. And I would like to let you know that he certainly instructed all his employees. They knew they were supposed to check licenses of anyone that was 27 or younger. Unfortunately, this employee made an error, did not follow that rule. Mr. Patel acted appropriately and swiftly, and as a result, there was nothing more than the warning. There was no other violation. That individual was terminated immediately, and they have not had any incidents since. So with that, I think I'll leave you with that information. You now have all the information that I have. Again, we respect all the concerns that have been raised, and we just thank you for your consideration of this application. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak under the public hearing on this license application? Yes. Yeah, just please come up to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
Hi, again, Susan Olson, 140 Groton Road. I do take exception to a couple of things that Angelique was just mentioning. One is being a bus stop. There is a bus stop, has been a bus stop for many, many years for Neshoba in particular. I have a grandson who gets picked up by the Chelmsford School Department and is taken to Tingsboro. He's a sped student, and there is a school bus stop right across the street from the that's from my grandson. Also Amelia Road, which is diagonally across. There are several bus stops. The issue is not so much that there are bus stops all over town. It's the fact that we're dealing with high school, middle school children. that are impressionable. There is an issue there with that. The other point that she brought up was the petition that was 2 years ago was denied. The last time Mr. Patel came before the board was for malt and wine license, not for all alcohol license. And that was denied, and it, I know he appealed that. The hours of operation still have not been addressed. I don't know what the hours of operation of the store are going to be.
Well, they do have the hours in the application. They are quite lengthy. If you want to give us a minute, we can have the applicant address the hours again, otherwise I can pull it up.
Because it was stated that the hours of operation now, presently, are 10 to 10,
I believe
Monday
they
through
said they
Saturday.
wanted to keep the same hours.
The hours of operation right now is 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Oh, it's going to be different. Set to 11.
Well, we'll address that with the applicant in a minute.
And I just have one more question. Temporary employee being cited for dispensing cigarettes to a minor. What's going to stop an employee from dispensing a bottle of beer to a minor who's going to drive, who could crash a car, who could kill some innocent person, if being a minor? I'm very much opposed to this. And I believe you've got the chief of police that's opposed to it. You have Neshoba Tech that wrote a letter saying that they were concerned about there being a bus stop right there as well. There's a lot that I think the board, I hope, will continue to consider. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to speak in the public hearing? Okay. Yeah, Angelique, could you confirm if the current hours are going to be the same as what they're actually open, or if they were planning on extending those?
Yes, and I apologize for any confusion. The hours of operation would potentially change if this license were granted, would not open at 7 a.m. The proposed hours of operation would be 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. Saturday through Sunday. Monday through Saturday, and Sunday 10 a.m. to 10 p.m., although my client has said if there's a different standard in town for Sundays that's different from what's required or allowed by law, they will follow whatever Sunday standard is. Okay. And just to, in case the board misunderstood me, I'm certainly not disputing there is a bus stop in the area of the Triangle store. My point was that many, if not most, of the package stores in town are near residences and also likely near bus stops. But certainly we do know that there are bus stops there.
Okay. Thank you. Well, we did receive some additional comments and emails from members of the board. I just wanted to briefly read some of those into the record, not the entire comments, but if anyone else would like, has anything that I've missed, you can certainly do that. So if you'll just give me a moment, we can have Trish scan these in. One moment. And then, okay. Well, the first, as has been mentioned, Chief Jim Spinney has written a letter in response. He said at this point he is not in favor of the Triangle store obtaining a full package store all alcohol liquor license. He notes concerns with the store's close proximity to Route 3, as well as the fact that it's completely surrounded by private residences. He says, in my opinion, the location of this proposed package store could negatively impact the quality of life for nearby residents. Dr. Judy Klimkowitz, the superintendent of schools at Neshoba Valley, we had reached out regarding the bus stops, which there is a bus stop at that location. She did confirm that, and then just basically stated that we find the news that it may possibly become an actual full-service liquor store most distressing, and hope that the Chelmsford Board of Selectmen would take this concern into consideration when deliberating regarding the board's final decision. And again, I'm not saying if we disagree or agree with any of these things. I'm just reading them into the record, of course. Just want to make that clear. And resident Alina Gomez opposes this. There were a number in favor. We'll get to those. Raju and Galub Kala, 10 Amelia Drive, opposed this. We had Bill Gillette also opposed to this. Well, let me clarify. I believe he said Vinyl Square would be the better, a preferred location. Didn't explicitly oppose it. And we had Carl Johnson, resident of town for 31 years, expressed support for the application. Al Newton, resident of Scotty Hollow, would like to support the application. Jay Ducharme supports the application. Ted Coleman supports the application from 5 Shelby Lane. And 148 Groton Road, we have Lori Werner, lives 1/4 mile from the store, in favor of the application.
There's one more I don't think you put in, and that's Everett and Susan Olson.
Yes. Oh, opposed.
140, they're opposed to it.
They're opposed to it.
140 Groton Road.
And then I had just a few others. Raju Galab, got them. Porna and Porni, 11 Amelia Drive, were opposed. And June Zhang of 8 Amelia Drive were also opposed. So certainly a mix of comments from residents opposed and in favor of the application. So just wanted to read those into the record. I did have some comments for you, Angelique, and for the applicant. You did address the warning letter. I appreciate you taking the time to respond to that for us.
Sure.
There are a few other concerns pertaining to the property and the owner. Just recently, I believe on September 3rd, the building commissioner and zoning enforcement officer, Mark Duppel, had to inspect the property and reported that the flashing open sign did not meet the town's bylaw, and that was a violation, and he had to issue a violation regarding that. I'm not sure if that has been taken care of.
It's in the process of being taken care of. I was not aware about it. I learned about it late afternoon, so I briefly reached out to my client. They're in conversation with contractors. Again, the upstairs certainly would be different from the premises that we put in the application, but they are addressing it currently.
Okay, yeah.
You mentioned the upstairs, and that's not part of the licensed space.
Correct, that's what I'm saying. I'm not familiar with the upstairs.
Is that where the flashing sign was? No. No, I was wondering why you brought up the upstairs.
No, isn't that the part of the building, I believe?
So,
To be honest, again, I don't know much about this violation, except that my client has told me they are in the process, and they will be meeting with the building inspector. I've requested that they did that this week, so that he knows exactly where they are in the process.
Okay, there was a second violation. Maybe that's what we're referring to.
Maybe that's what I'm trying
I guess a letter was sent to Kashiwa Realty Trust, 148 Groton Road, on August 10th and September 3rd, both citing building code 8th edition violation that hadn't been addressed. And I'm not sure to this day if they've reached out to the building commissioner regarding that violation, or if that's in process of being.
Again, they're in the process of doing it, but I don't know that the building inspector knows where they are in the process, so I've asked that they reach out to the building inspector tomorrow.
Okay.
I would have had them do it today. My apologies, but I didn't hear about the concern until after 4, so I don't.
Okay. No, that's understandable, certainly. It's just a little concerning personally as one member having basically three letters all within the past 2 months of different violations, some of which are maybe in the process of being resolved now but not resolved yet. Moving forward with the license at this time, I would feel a little better if these things resolved. I understand that they may not be related specifically to this license, but it's part of the same building and the same owner. So I don't know how other board members feel about that, but I was just hoping that we could have that addressed tonight or before we maybe vote on the license, certainly. But
well, I think that that early on in the process, there's a application departmental sign off, and the building inspector did sign off of it, but it was 6/29/15. But certainly he has the right to go back and re-inspect. And maybe these were things that were brought to his attention.
It's a separate
building. I have a question. Is the zoning uses, is the liquor store allowed in a?
Yes.
Okay, I don't have my planning board book with me, so it is allowed in a regular retail? Okay, right. And the only other thing I'm concerned about is that the placement of this liquor store is a quality of life thing. There's enough people that are opposed to it that don't really, it's not something that they need to deal with. And once we issue the license, we're going to have to deal with it. So for me, it's a quality of life issue. So thank you.
Any of the members of the board have any other questions or comments for the applicant?
I just, I live very close to that area. I'm very familiar with that corner. I think it's misleading to say there's a bus stop near it. There's a bus stop at that address. It is in the middle of a residential area. There are no other stores within a half mile of there, so you'll be asking people very often when people go to a liquor store, it's not because they haven't had a drink that day, it's because they've run out of liquor, they go to a liquor store. This is a family neighborhood. I have children who are walking across this intersection, and it's a very dangerous intersection. It's very difficult to get across there as it is. There have been, I just say, I noticed just this week, the house next door to this is now up for sale. I don't know if it's related to what's going on during this, but I'd be interested to know if the owner heard that this application was being voted on this month and put their house up for sale as a result of this. Right now, this store does close at 7 o'clock at night, which means this corner is dark. There are no lights other than the regular street lights. Changing the hours of operation to 10 p.m. every night of the week is going to significantly change the entire flow of traffic in that area, bringing a lot of people into a bedroom community, essentially. I am very opposed to the granting of this license.
Any other comments at this time?
I'd like to have a legal opinion to come up and counsel to come up and give us a legal opinion on, from what he's heard, what a negative vote would mean as far as an appeal was concerned.
Would you like to come up and address, I guess address some of the board's concerns that we've raised at this point, and are they relevant to the discussion in granting a license from a legal perspective?
I'd be happy to, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Mr. Manager, as you know, I'm Jeffrey Blake from Copeland and Page Town Council. And typically the way these liquor licenses are, the statute provides that you're informed by the public need and in such a manner as to protect the common good. We often refer to the so-called Ballerin factors, because that's a case that was decided back in 2000 by the appeals court, which really kind of laid out what that means. And there, the court found that the test includes an assessment of public want and appropriateness of a liquor license at a particular location. And what it did was it actually laid out factors, not exclusive, but it kind of laid out what was in the domain of the board. And some of those factors are, for example, the number of existing establishments in an area. I think if you recall, when you declined to issue a beer and wine license in that same location, one of the reasons for it was that we felt as though there was enough establishments in the area to meet the needs. That was a legitimate basis. The view of the inhabitants of the locality, for example, the public having voiced concerns about it, or for the approval of. I do caution you, though, with respect to those. I don't think it's a legitimate, based on the cases that I've seen, I don't think it's just legitimate to say that, 35, 50, 75% of the people don't want it there. I think what you would need to do in those instances, they don't want it because there's a bus stop right there. The unique character of this intersection makes it so that the additional traffic would cause a significant hazard to the pedestrians and to the neighborhood. Those, I think, are legitimate concerns of you, and I suggest that if you do take their concerns into account, you would need to make findings. For example, like Selectwoman Merrill just made. She indicated that these are my concerns. It's a bus stop. There's a lot of traffic. There's low light. Those kind of things. Those are the findings that would need to be made. Again, traffic is a legitimate concern viewed for this liquor license. Noise. I didn't sit through the first hearing, but if there was evidence of noise, additional noise in a residential neighborhood, those are again legitimate concerns. And the reputation of the applicant, I do caution you on this one. And when they say reputation of the applicant, I think what it really means is you can take a look and see if there are things that are on the public record that would give you cause for concern. For example, and I'm not saying that you have to use this, but for example, there's a violation for selling tobacco to a minor. There are building code violations. I suggest that the mere fact that there's a building code violation at the property is not a legitimate basis to deny a license. However, if you take all of these into consideration, now the building code, for example, if he had been made aware of the building code violations for the last, pick a time, and has either ignored or refused to comply with our reasonable orders, I think that goes toward the reputation of this owner. Let me go back to the tobacco license. Now, this owner, as the applicant's attorney indicated, has no track record for selling alcohol. And, that's okay. I mean, obviously there are people that start businesses that don't necessarily. But what we do see here is, and this could be another basis if you were to so inclined, what we do see here is another instance where a heavily regulated substance, tobacco, which has an age restriction, was actually sold to a minor. I mean, as you know, alcohol is in the same kind of regulatory scheme where you might have sales to minors. So those are all factors that weigh in. So these are, I think your question was, what can we look at? And those are the things that you can look at. And I suggest that, under the statute and under the case law, if you deny it, you're going to have to, or grant it, you're going to have to make findings on the record. For example, as Selectwoman Merrill just did, with respect to your reasons why. It can't just be people don't want it.
Certainly. Selectman Dixon, is that helpful? Do you have any additional?
Basically, I think we were going down the wrong road. Some people that were looking to, and I just want to caution, I mean, we've had some appeals and, over the 7 years I've been on the board, and some of the things, caused, the way we said some things caused some problems at the appellate court. And so I just want to, maybe if somebody else has a question, whatever. I don't know.
Should be considering or not. Okay. I think that was helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll be right over here if there's any.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
If we were to state the, what do you call them, provisions, what the...
the factors.
Factors, like what Laura said.
And again, I just want
to do it at the time of the motion, or could we?
Well, I would suggest that what we would do is we would end up drafting a written opinion. But you, of course, when in your discussion, you need to show that, I want to deny this because, in my opinion, or based on the record, the traffic would be increased. There was a bus stop there. There would be a safety concern for the children at the bus stop or for the pedestrians at large.
But would that prevent us from taking any action tonight because we'd have to do those things?
No, it wouldn't prevent you from taking action tonight. But you do have to discuss on the record the reasons for it.
Yeah, if you have any concerns, make sure you just discuss it now publicly so the applicant can address them. It wouldn't be fair to deny an application, then after the fact say, I did this because of X reason. I think that's what council stated.
I think Laura's conditions were good conditions and can be recorded and submitted as part of the motion. Is that am I hearing you right?
Certainly as support for your decision, if in fact you're so inclined to deny the license, yes.
Now, could we Could we postpone decision on this, and then we can't take it up in executive session, though?
No, you can't take it up in executive session. Well, I shouldn't be so.
I kind of thought that, but I wanted to ask
I
anyway.
mean, I can't be so emphatic. I don't see a reason at this point to take it up in executive session.
Okay.
So, okay.
So, inasmuch as we don't have a motion written that includes her facts.
Yeah, I don't think we're done with the discussion yet, but
Okay.
certainly
Yeah.
if you need to clarify anything.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's fine.
I just want to confirm.
I have a few other things.
Yeah, I suppose
Basically, looking at the Town of Chelmsford liquor and license regulations, and Section 1.25, clear view of the premises interior. No advertising matter, screen, curtain, or other obstruction, which is in the opinion of the licensing authority or agent of the licensing authority, prevents a clear view of the interior of the premises shall be maintained in or on any window or door. Therefore, after the licensing authority has ordered the removal of such obstruction. My belief when I read this is this provision was put in place so that police driving by could see into the building. It seems to be a safety concern. I know for a fact that you cannot see into the interior of that building unless you were to get up on the stairs and look in because of the way that there are boards and things are covering the front. So that's another concern I have. And also when I read through what went on 2 years ago, and the state upheld the decision of the board, basically it was about the fact that it was, the state was most concerned about the fact that it was proven that there were enough liquor stores to satisfy the need. And we've now down one liquor store. The reason that liquor store is closed is because it could not sustain business and it went through multiple ownerships. So I think that states that the residents have already had too much distribution going on that could not sustain another liquor store. And the fact that 2 police chiefs have recommended against this for this essentially the same reason, I think is significant as well. Police Chief Murphy also wrote a letter 2 years ago against it.
Okay, great. Did you have anything you wanted to add right now, Janet?
I guess I here are my concerns. The lack of experience of the applicant and the responsible distribution of alcoholic beverages to the public. My concern of the sale of tobacco to a minor at 3:30 in the afternoon. I also, I guess it's not his burden to do that. I didn't like that I had to find that by Googling. It wasn't brought forward to us, and this was only a year ago that this happened. I was a little concerned about the response that was given to the FDA by the applicant. I would like to sincerely apologize for the inconvenience from the Triangle store in Delhi. It wasn't an inconvenience, it was a violation of selling a substance to a minor, and I have great concerns about that. I'm also taking in consideration the opposition of many of the residents in the nearby area. I do have a lot of concerns around this new traffic flow. This is no longer, kids and folks just walking over for a pack of gum or a can of soda. These are people coming off of Route 3 in different areas coming in, and it's different traffic coming to this location for liquor and wine. The police chief is in opposition to this. I agree that this will change the character of the neighborhood and not for the better. And I do have concerns along with the principal or the superintendent of Neshoba Tech, given that this is a bus stop. And although it would open at 9 a.m. Monday through Friday, and the kids would be picked up before that, there are late starts. And a lot of times there's late starts mostly in the winter. And if kids are in this location, this place is open, they're waiting for a bus, it's cold, it's snowing, sleeting, this just isn't a place for them to go in and wait until the bus comes. So those are my concerns, and that's it.
Okay, great. I think my concerns in closing, and I don't know if they really need to be addressed or just something for the board to consider, but going back to the responsiveness, I don't want to say that the applicant has been responsive, because there actually has been correspondence from residents who say he's very respectable business owner. We've received multiple comments like that in the area. But it does concern me, not that there have been building violations, because that could happen to any business owner. What concerns me right now is that there were 2 notices that weren't responded to almost a month apart, and then a third notice had to be said before a response was even given. And I don't know if he's only starting to address these issues now because he knows he's applying for a license, and if he wasn't doing that, if he would just continue to ignore these responses, and that's really concerning to me. And I don't feel comfortable voting on this right now, certainly until these are addressed. If these are addressed, and probably another significant issue maybe for me personally is the hours of operation, well past the current hours, given the residential character of the neighborhood. That would be a significant change to the character of the neighborhood. So I would be more inclined to look at this if these issues were resolved before voting on this, rather than just outright denying the application. I'd like to give the applicant the opportunity to correct these issues, because they're concerns of mine. And then I think if some of those issues could be addressed, I have concerns that there was a violation. I do want to give the applicant credit for immediately firing the employee who made the violation, because I know lots of business owners, you shouldn't be held responsible if an employee makes a mistake. What you should be held responsible for is how you handle the situation. And I think personally that was admirable, but it still is another another violation that occurred, and certainly something we need to consider when thinking about this.
Just a quick question for their counsel. Does your client have a TIPS certification?
Yes, it's ServSafe, and is the one that he has. The certification that he does have is in the application. There was another training. It's called Tips on Premises. I think it's called
Tips on Premises.
That was sort of an additional one that he located based on the discussions of the board last time, that he's more than willing to also take. But he is, the equivalent of tip certified. It's just by a different company. So he will do the other one if it's approved and the board would like him to. BAT certification is what he had.
But not a TIPS.
Right.
TIPS. The thing that bugs me here is that we won't give out a one-day beer and liquor, wine, beer, whatever it is, unless someone has a TIPS license. Now, this client is coming in for a license to run a liquor store. I would expect him to at least have a TIPS.
I believe that it's the equivalent, though I could be mistaken.
TIPS
and
is
again,
for
if there's
pouring.
right, this is the equivalent for a package store. Okay. So he does have the certification that's requested or required for the package store. There's an additional class offered by TIPS for a package store.
Oh, okay. So
that he again is willing to take.
Was that in the first first run?
No, that he took the serve.
So we got a picture of it.
You have a picture of it, yeah. I'd have to look through it, to be honest, and I'm happy to do that, but I don't have it in front of me.
Okay.
But yes, all I can tell you is that what he does have again is the equivalent for the package store, not a pouring license, because he won't be doing that. But again, if there's some other training he's unaware of, I called the ABCC, I spoke to them. Again, there's nothing else that they require. They recommended or pointed us in the direction of this tips on premises, and he's happy to do that. He's happy to do any other training that he becomes aware of. But again, that's all we were able to find.
Okay, thank you. I think we are still in the public hearing portion. Is there any residents in the audience? I think I saw a hand raised. You're still welcome to speak. And if you could, with questions, you can feel free to direct them to the board, and if appropriate, we'll ask them of the applicant too. Okay. So.
Anne-Marie Del Rossi, 137 Groton Road. I was here 2 years ago when this all came up again, and since that time, even then I brought it up about the how the store looks. Nothing has changed. Things are they're expired, whatever's in there. Things are covered with dust. They sell no more newspapers and scratch tickets, things like that. The outside, I mean, I pick up more scratch tickets in my front yard and trash that blows around over there. There's no cans or anything for people to put their trash in. There's a lot of things that have happened in the last 2 years, or I should say haven't happened in the last 2 years, that should have happened, such as taking all the stuff out of the windows. That's an ordinance here in town, and that's just still been like that for the 2 years that he came to get that license. Oh gosh, so many things are going through my head. Also, we were talking about school buses. Don't forget you have afternoon kindergarten, where kids are dropped off in the middle of the day and they're picked up in the middle of the day. You have late buses also that come in later on, around 4 or 5 o'clock. I mean, I was first witness when those 4 kids were mowed down by that drunk driver on Swain Road, and he drove away and left them there to die. I was there. I was there holding them in my lap when they were crying and bleeding. You know, it was horrendous. I don't want to live through this. Every single year, there's always something. I'm pulling glass out of somebody's face or picking somebody up off the ground because they've been in an accident. I mean, I've had people plow into my front yard, you know, and my neighbors as well. My neighbor across the street is afraid to go get her mail out of the mailbox. You know, all we need is to have something like this to come along. We don't need this in our neighborhood. This is our neighborhood. This is where we raise our children. You know, it's right up the street from Route 3. We watch our children as it is. You know, to have this come in and to have all these other things brought up tonight about, you know, selling tobacco and it's just kind of blown off. I mean, who was that person that worked there? You know, was it a family member that did that? Was it a real employee that worked? I don't know. You know, I mean, I know Mr. Patel because I've gone to his store years ago and I know that he's a good man. But this is not what we need in our neighborhood. We have a cemetery right down the street. You've always got people going down, always the processions. You've got the motorcycles going through, and the police take care of that. They do such an awesome job keeping control of that. But as far as the store hours and people coming and going to all hours of the night, I mean, it's just too much. It's too much. I don't know. I've seen too much in this town, you know, in that section of town. And I love my neighbors. I respect them. We have some shut-ins that even can't come here and voice their opinion. They don't have access to computers to even say what they're feeling. So that's why I'm here right now, to just say this again. You know, I've been here, this is my 3rd time again to say, this is just not a good idea. It's just not a good idea. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in the public hearing portion? Okay. I think I have any other comments from members of the board? I mean, I think I have a pretty good sense of how the board feels. I mean, I think I expressed that I have concerns I would like to see sort of resolved or, before moving forward, but I don't know if I'm in the majority, and I would hate to waste the applicant's time if that's not the will of the board to further consider the license. It appears to me that it doesn't have the votes to pass. I would entertain certainly a motion to continue to give the applicant more time to reconsider the hours of operation and some of the building code violations and to further address those more personally. But I know.
Yeah,
I don't know if that would change the mind of any of the fellows.
So if he addresses the building code violations and he changes his hours, what would his hours need to be to meet your acceptance?
I think something closer to basically the current hours of operation that the neighborhood is currently accustomed to would make me feel more comfortable. And I think not just addressing these, but potentially even having the applicant, you know, come and explain why these orders to vacate weren't addressed. I don't know if he would want to speak to that personally or write us a letter explaining it. I don't know if he didn't get his mail or he was out of the country. That literally has happened to other applicants in the past. They go out of the country for the summer. They didn't check their mail, things like that. So I don't just want these addressed. I'd like to know why they weren't addressed. That's my big concern. Because if things happen in the future, we already know once the license is issued and then the ABCC is involved, the town does lose some of its control. Our control is really in whether we issue a license or not. So those are my concerns, and if they're really, really adequately addressed, I think I would consider this license. The license was held just, I think, a half mile down the road previously. So I think a lot of the comments that we've been addressed, I'm not sure if in a court they're going to be legitimate, because this was an existing license that's just being moved not too far, and that that kind of concerns me. So if that's something that the rest of the board members would consider, because I know these are concerns, I believe, of the other board members.
I'd have to say that the previous license, while it was only a half mile down the road, it was on 3A, which is basically commercial.
Right.
There's a big difference in that. And also, we're looking, the other concern was, could this possibly be a Vinyl Square opportunity? The businesses, the restaurants in Vinyl Square are open until 10 o'clock, whereas there's nothing open near this. So that's the concern on that one I have.
George, where are you on this? You've been kind of silent except for talking with
Well, only
Paul.
because we've been through a few appeals, and a lot of things that have been brought up are very passionate and heartwarming and heartbreaking and whatever, but I'm not sure that there would be a reason for the ABC to deny them the license. That's my opinion. That's why I asked for counsels to explain some of it, so,
Well, I'm pretty much opposed to it for a lot of reasons that Laura brought up. And I think that if we're going to lengthen this by 2 more weeks and then just come back and say the same thing to Angelique, I mean...
That's what I don't want to do.
Yeah, well, we don't know if we're there. That's the problem. If I was counting, I'd say we're not there.
I respect that. I think you're there. Would you feel comfortable voting tonight, or would you like to give the applicant more time to reconsider the hours of operation in these violations and give us a better response before moving forward, or would you like to move forward tonight?
It's not going to change my mind around my concerns, which are the lack of experience, this violation of the sale of tobacco to a minor at 3:30 in the afternoon. That is going to change the traffic flow considerably, and it's going to change the character of the residential neighborhood. It's going to be a detriment to that neighborhood.
Sure.
So I just don't think it's an appropriate location for a liquor store. It's right in the middle of a residential neighborhood with kids, with bus stops, and fixing building code violations and changing the hours is not going to address these concerns. And according to council, these are legitimate concerns.
All right. Well, I'd entertain a motion to, unless there's any more public hearing, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I move we close public hearing.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? That was unanimous. Selectman Joyce, would you like to make a motion?
Yes, I would like to make a motion to deny an all-alcohol package store license for AH and MJ Triangle Corp. DBA Triangle Package Store to be exercised on, was to be exercised on the premises at 148 Groton Road, North Chelmsford, and add the conditions to our findings when they are written up.
Our concerns.
Of concern.
The concerns mentioned by the
The
board members.
concerns mentioned by the board. And we'll include those as findings on the denial.
Sure. Does that motion have a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor of the motion by Selectman Joyce, say aye.
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 Aye. Any nays? One nay?
No.
Any abstentions? One abstention?
I want to abstain.
You're abstaining as well? Okay. Motion fails 3 with 2 abstentions.
Thank you very much for your consideration.
Oh, you were the...
Your time.
You were the other extension?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
We do have a number of other public hearings this evening. Oh, are you staying, Angelique?
Yeah, she's on the next one. Yeah, that's what I thought too.
Don't go far. The all alcohol restaurant license application, 18 Boston Road, Andiamo Pasta.
All right, hello again.
Good evening.
Members of the board. Again, for the record, I'll just state, my name is Angelique Eliopoulos, here with the law offices of Eliopoulos and Eliopoulos at 9 North Road here in Chelmsford. And I'm also here tonight representing Andiamo Pasta LLC in its application for an all-alcohol license for its new restaurant. And we are happy to finally announce publicly that we're going to be opening the anchor restaurant for the new Chelmsford Town Center Plaza Andiamo Restaurant and Bar. I know it's late, and I hope you've all eaten dinner because I'm about to make you all very hungry. With me here tonight is James Rogers. He's the owner of the restaurant and the proposed manager for this license. He has 30 years of experience in the restaurant business. He has about almost 15 years experience as a manager under a liquor license. And most importantly, perhaps, he's the owner of the beloved North Shore sister Andiamo restaurant, which is in Newburyport, and he is the manager of that license. So that's his only current liquor license that he's manager of. The restaurant has won a number of awards. I won't get into too many of them. You can look at them. My favorite is the Phantom Gourmet Outstanding Review, which promises the best burger that the Phantom has ever found. So I encourage you all to check that out. But I'll tell you a little bit about the location. It's going to be the end unit of the beautiful new plaza in Chelmsford Center. And for those of you who may not know, part of the approval process for the building itself required that they clean up that area of Beaverbrook and make it beautiful so that it's becoming part of the dining experience. All the invasive species have been pulled out, and they've really cleaned it up and made it look really nice. And not only will there be some outdoor seating, there'll be a wall on that side that retracts so that the patrons that prefer to eat inside can also have that kind of alfresco dining experience with the open air, et cetera. So it's going to be really nice. Mr. Rogers is putting over $1 million into the fit-up of this restaurant, and so clearly the experience that he wants his patrons to have is of paramount. So I've been authorized to promise you guys a number of specialties that will be at this restaurant, along with what's at the old restaurant. And again, I can't get into them all, but there's going to be wood-burning stove imported from Italy for the pizza, pasta machine imported from Italy. Everything's made fresh. The bread, the juice for the drinks that will be in your cocktails. And I've been told the best meatballs you've ever had, although attorney-client privilege, I cannot reveal the secret ingredient. But in order to complete this dining experience, we're of course here to seek an alcohol license for the restaurant. All boards have signed off on the application. We worked a lot with the boards before. I'm here before you tonight and worked through a lot of the details, everything from seating to where the wood was going to be stored for the oven. So all of that has been sorted out with all the departments. We thank them for all their help in getting us here, and we believe that we've addressed all the questions that they've had. There's ample parking for the proposed seating. There's also banked parking if for some reason there's a need later on, but certainly the parking that we have meets the numbers. We've also submitted to the board an entertainment license for some TVs and other things that the restaurant would like to have, and I believe you also have a common viculars license in front of you. James is already certified, obviously, and his certification is in your application that he has for running the other restaurant. I also have the green cards I can give to the board for your records.
You can give them to Paul, certainly.
And really, I think all the other information that you need is in the application, though, as always, I'm here to answer any questions. The only other request that I would make, along with the official approval of the license, the entertainment license, and the common viculars license, is I would ask that the board waive the 2-week holdover period. I know in the past the board has done so when the applicant has a long history of experience, and I've reviewed his long experience already, so I won't need to say that again. With that, I'll leave it open to your questions.
If I could, before we start, I'd just like to ask the applicant, would it be all right if he came up and introduced
Of course, he'd be happy
himself?
to.
All right. Yeah, if you could say your name and tell us why you chose Chelmsford, that'd be great.
Well, thank you for having me. It's James Rogers. My wife, by the way, is Trish right here.
Good evening, Trish.
Yeah. Chelmsford, first of all, we met Adam, who actually is who built that beautiful lifestyle center over there. And if you've been over there, which I'm sure you have, as soon as you walk over there, I walked into that building, And I told my wife, I go, this is it. It's a beautiful building. It's a great location, you know. I've been in the business a long time. If you look at it from a business point of view, I think there's a lot of, there's a great group of people here that need another restaurant. I mean, to be frank with you, I think there's a couple of great restaurants in this town, and I think to add another one is only going to complement. I think a place like Fishbones does great. Nobu seems like they're doing very well, but I think if you put a Italian restaurant between them, it's going to be a great little trifecta in that area. You know, I think I've been in Newburyport pretty much. I'm born and raised there, and this town sort of, even though it's not on the water, has that same sense of community from what I understand, like in Newburyport. And if you want to know anything about what I do, is I get involved with this community. And in Newburyport, we started a Veterans Day. We fed every veteran for free and a guest right after 9/11. It was probably the best feeling I've ever done as a chef. I've never served, you know, and I was only giving these people just a meal, which was nothing to me, and it was like the whole world to them. So things like getting involved with the Boys and Girls Club, being involved with the town, doing pasta fundraisers for this, you know, for the high school, anything that helps out, you can count on us to be part of the community. You can count on my wife and I to always be there working hard. If your question, which I may get ahead of you, we're going to hire a general manager in Newburyport, and we'll spend most of our time here in Chelmsford. You know, this is our new priority. Don't tell the people in the report that.
We will not.
You know, we've been there a long time.
We don't watch this meeting often, so.
Yeah, good. Now, the place is, we've been there a long time. We have a great crew there. They're very experienced. You know, they know it's coming. We're in the process of getting everyone trained, moving some people up the ladder, and my wife and I are ready to really dive in full on here in Chelmsford.
Great, that's fantastic. Thank you very much.
Question before it leaves. What's your best guesstimate on when you'll open?
Yeah. So we're working, you know, building a new restaurant in an empty building. You know, you may seem like, oh, it's empty, just you can draw a plan and go. Well, it's certainly turned into making sure that everything is where it belongs. You know what I mean? Because I feel once we do get going, I don't really want to stop. I want to have that, right. You know, that this is where we're going to start, this is where we're going to stop. So our plan is to start construction in the next few weeks, and we've been told 4 to 5 months by a contractor. We'd like to keep it closer to 4. So my guess would be the beginning of February. You know, so we're still in that final planning stages. Everything is pretty much there. We're looking for our last set of plans from our architect in the next couple of weeks. And
I'm going to have my 65th birthday there on February 16th.
I think that would be perfect.
Because it's all about Bob.
Yeah.
Right, very good.
Oh, good luck.
Well,
thank you, Bob.
Yeah, I just really, before we get into it, I certainly agree. I think it's a fantastic location. It's a beautiful new building. And we all, I think, do want people to think when they want to go out to eat, we want to think downtown Chelmsford. And, you know, you can pick a restaurant when you're on the way there, but we want people to certainly come downtown.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think it's, Newburyport, if you know anything about it, has a lot of restaurants. That's great in some days, but I think to have a few quality restaurants more than quantity sometimes is better, you know. So.
Great. Are there any questions from members of the board regarding the application? Everything is in order.
No, I have a question. It's more of a technical question for Paul.
Mm-hmm.
If we approve their license tonight, do they get licensed for the rest of this year, or do we wait till January 1st?
No, from here, it would have to go into the ABCC for review, and then that will take a few months.
That will.
And then, you know, we're not going to charge them for a license until they open.
Right. Okay, all right. Yep. Thank you.
Very good. And are there any questions or comments from members of the public? This is a public hearing. Anyone is free to speak on behalf of the application. All right, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion. Well, I guess we should say first, I personally, with someone with so much experience, I have no problem waiving the 2-week wait period, especially considering there aren't any comments at our first meeting here. I don't really foresee any. I haven't received any comments. If no other board members have, I would entertain a motion to waive our 2-week wait period.
Move we waive the 2-week lead time for licenses.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nays or abstentions? That's unanimous.
Move that we approve.
Can we close the public
Oh, you're on public hearing. Move we close the public hearing.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous. Entertain a motion on the license application as presented. And actually, I don't believe it's listed in here.
It's in here?
But the common vic license as well and the entertainment license application.
I'll just add them.
If you can add that to the motion.
Common vic. And what's the other one?
Entertainment.
Entertainment. Okay, I make a motion to approve the all-alcohol restaurant license application and the common victualer's license, and the entertainment license for Adamo. Is that right?
Andiamo.
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 Forget the birthday party.
Andiamo.
That's all right.
Now you won't forget it.
Yeah, you.
I'm married to an Italian, so Pasta LLC, DBA Andiamo Restaurant and Bar to be exercised on the premises at 18 Boston Road.
I will second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Nays or abstentions? That's unanimous. Great, congratulations.
Good luck.
Thank you.
We'll see you in
See
February.
us here in February.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm
You're
going home now.
Have a good night. Next on the agenda, we have a public hearing for an underground and above-ground storage license application at 371 Acton Road for Acton Road LLC.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
For the record, Douglas DeShane, representing Acton Road LLC. Nothing as exciting as alcohol and good food, but nevertheless very important to my client's business. We are seeking a license for underground storage tanks associated with the redevelopment of Landry's Service Station at 371 Acton Road. We are going to rebuild the structure and the station. It will be a gasoline station, has convenience store as well as a coffee shop. We've received all the necessary permits from the planning board under your CEIOD overlay district for the redevelopment of that site. And of course, we are going to be installing new state-of-the-art gasoline tanks. So these two tanks would be for the storage of the gasoline and diesel fuel associated with the facility. So happy to answer any questions you might have. There aren't a lot of facts and figures.
Oh, I know. Well, residents have been eager to know what's going on there and hoping that it's redeveloped soon, so we're glad to see you in front of us asking for the license tonight. Any questions on the application, members of the board?
Was there a 21E problem there originally?
Yes, there was. My client has removed the former tanks, had it tested. There was a small hot spot there. We hired licensed site professionals to come in. It's been taken care of. We're now monitoring the site. The testing from the monitoring wells has been excellent, and things are moving in the right direction. I don't know if you've noticed, but the site in general has been significantly improved. We did a lot of work in the wetlands to remove a lot of material and tires, engines, and a lot of other things. It was all done by hand in conjunction with your Conservation Commission. So they've really done a great job of cleaning the site up, and I know it's going to be an excellent facility when it's done. Spent a lot of time with your planning board and with the neighbors to work through the permits and what was going to happen and hours of operation and all of the associated issues. So it was quite an effort. Again, the neighbors were made a big part of it and worked it through the planning board. So we're ready to get going.
No trouble with the water table, Dougie, huh?
No, everything's set. Hooked it up to town water, or will be hooked up to town water, which it never was.
Questions from members of the board before we open it up to the public? This is a public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak on behalf of this application? Right, I see no one. I'll entertain
This might not be relative, but are you able to say who the renters are?
No.
No. That's what I thought.
Knew what gasoline brand?
Well, yeah,
No,
donut shop.
that hasn't been
No?
determined,
Oh,
no.
okay, all right.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Make a motion that we close the public hearing.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Public hearing is now closed. Any final comments or discussion on the application for the underground and above-ground storage tanks? All right, seeing none, entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve an underground, above-ground storage license for Acton Road LLC to be exercised on the premises at 371 Acton Road.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye. Nays or abstentions? That's unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Good
Thank you.
luck.
Move on now to a National Grid Underground conduit petition for Pinewood Road. Give the applicant a moment. Good evening. evening.
Good evening, Joy and Tilly from National Grid Electric. I'm here to speak in favor of the motion and take any questions.
Hopefully. Microphone working? Yeah. Good. All right. I think it's pretty straightforward, an underground conduit petition. Any questions from members of the board? And most importantly, are there any questions from any abutters?
So we haven't received any letters of
Haven't received any
protest, anything?
concerns.
Any comments? And we do have the abutter list in here, quite a few abutters, but certainly no comments. We do like it when things are underground as opposed but I mean, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing if there are no comments.
Move to close public hearing.
I'll second.
All in favor of closing the public hearing?
Aye.
Aye. Motion is unanimous. Any other comments regarding the conduit petition? Pine Road Road. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Move that we approve the petition from National Grid for Pinewood Road to install 150 feet of PVC conduit.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nays or abstentions? That's unanimous.
Thank you. Have a nice night.
For your time. We have a Comcast underground conduit petition for Omni Way.
Good evening. My name is Dave Llewellyn from Comcast. I'm here on the petition for Omni Way, beginning at utility pole labeled Mass Electric number 2, approximately 90 feet from Burica Road, and continuing along Omni Way, placing a 3-inch PVC conduit, approximately 1,485 feet, more or less, with 6 vaults to provide service to the businesses on Omni Way.
Certainly, great. Any questions or comments from members of the board?
So the conduit is going on Omni Way itself, not on Burica Road at all?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? This is a public hearing. Does anyone in the public wish to speak? Okay. Seeing none, have we received any comments on this to your office, Paul?
Just from Public Works.
Some Public Works, right? All right, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Move to close the public hearing.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous. Final comments on the conduit petition? No?
I make a motion that we allow, who's it, Comcast?
Approve.
Yeah.
Comcast.
That we approve Comcast
Underground conduit petition for Omni Way.
for a petition for Omni Road.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Nays or abstentions? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Have a good evening. We have a public hearing for a dangerous dog hearing. Donald Brannigan, 9 Bonanza Drive. Animal Control Officer. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Eric Merrill, Animal Control Officer for the town of Chelmsford. I believe we have some...
Actually, Eric, before we get started, yes, I would like anyone who plans on speaking tonight on behalf of the dangerous dog hearing, could I ask that you all please stand and come up to the podium to be sworn in? Anyone who wishes to speak? Even if you may speak, you don't have to, certainly, but, all right. Would you all please raise your right hand, state aye, and then state your name? And swear that the testimony I tell this evening is the truth? Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Good evening, Matt.
Good evening. So would you like to give us an overview of what happened?
Yeah. Basically, through the investigation of Officer Daniel Gogan and myself, this incident occurred on August 3rd. Emmeline Thomas was walking her fiance's dog, Elvis, a lab mix, 13 years old, on a leash on Sierra Drive, when a long-haired German Shepherd came through the neighborhood, as that picture there, across the street, attacked Elvis, and almost disemboweled him. Very severe attack. You guys have the pictures. With Miss Thomas is screaming, and Elvis was able to get up, and he ran home, and then they found the wounds, brought him to the hospital. The dog was identified as Mr. Donald Rannigan's through pictures and through some eyewitness accounts of this this attack. At this point, the dog is, again, under the dangerous dog. I've moved this a few times now. It's an unprovoked attack. It attacked another animal on a public way. So the dog, I believe, needs to be deemed dangerous and conditions put upon the dog to prevent this from happening to animals or humans. I have had a chance to see the dog. I don't believe he is overly human aggressive. When I seen him at a kennel facility in my report, you saw doing upon an inspection on a separate matter, the dog was there, and even the person that owns the kennel, who is a dog trainer and stuff, says the dog is definitely not amicable or friendly with other animals. So that's our main concern. Secondary, of course, I mean, people get wrapped up in a dog fight. Someone could get hurt. So I am looking for the board to make a determination. I know we have some people here as well that have, seen it and were there. So their testimony will exemplify actually what happened better. And I know Mr. Rannigan, I have met with him, I've spoke with him. He was not in country when this happened. He had somebody watching the dog for him. But we spoke, we met together. There was a history with this gentleman in the past with, having issues with maintaining his dog, so there is a little bit of reasonable doubt that we gotta control this. So I think the importance of putting limitations on what happens with the dog, be it muzzles and stuff, is very important.
Was this with a previous dog? Or was this
With a
the
previous
same?
dog, not this dog. This dog is a new dog.
How long ago was that, Eric?
About 4 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Eric, thank you. Any questions for Eric before we?
Just have a quick question. So how far away from the house was the dog when he attacked the other dog?
Which one? Because this dog, Elvis, was being walked probably about a quarter of a mile from his house.
Okay.
He was
So
around
it
the
wasn't right off?
No, he wasn't right off the property. And the attacking dog came through a couple of yards from 2 streets running from a parallel street, came through the yards and attacked him.
Okay.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Any other questions for
Paul,
Officer
can
Merrill?
you take that down?
Oh, sure.
Thanks.
Yep. Sure.
Could this be a dog that could be probably kennelled?
Well,
Self-kennelled, like a 10 by 10 or something like that?
Yeah. If you want my recommendation at this point now, or would you rather hear the testimony first?
Oh, wait.
Okay.
Oh, wait, yeah. That's it.
Yeah,
I mean, have you discussed it with the people? Have they come to any agreement that you're satisfied with, that they're all,
Well, at this point, we haven't really discussed it. Mr. Rannigan and himself was going to talk with the house sitter that was watching the dog and had care, custody, and control. He does have a kennel facility or a kennel structure. It's not totally appropriate. There's some lapse in it, and that needs to be addressed.
so you could make some suggestions to get
Oh,
them to
yeah,
get up
absolutely.
to speed?
All right.
And if he would have any objection to it, and I don't know what the victim, the dog of the other people, if the people, if they're accepting, this type of situation,
Yeah.
maybe we can get this resolved.
Oh, I think we can definitely resolve it. I don't think it's a continuation on like as we've had in the past with it's a lengthy trial. So.
One more question.
Is this something that is there any legal ramifications or any suit regarding the injury to the victim, to the dog that was
The matter between the two parties, the dog that was a tax owner and Mr. Rennick, that's a civil matter, it's not a criminal, so they're up to them to work that out. The criminal aspect, or, you know, the thing we look at is if we don't act and we do something, you know, then we're definitely, you know, negligent and liable for not taking appropriate actions to prevent this in the future.
So would you be satisfied if you address the problem with the gentleman that owns the dog that did the biting?
Yeah, I mean, I
How
think.
to construct them, and then tell us what we have to make them.
Yeah, I can give, like I said, I can give you my opinion, what needs to be done, and, you know,
I think
follow.
it might be more quickly.
Okay, yeah, maybe.
'cause I know we have the, you know, the people that have seen it, and Mr. Rannigan may want to speak as well.
Right. Well, maybe it'd be good to hear what your recommendations are, so if they do have any comments, whether they're amenable to
Sure.
those or not, they can let us know in their comments. So if you want to tell us what you think is currently in place.
As we've done in the past with dogs that are animal aggressive, more so than any issue with human aggression. The animal aggressive dogs, we've had the standard, what we've kind of set forth is a dangerous dog collar, which is yellow and red striped, so when it's out, it signifies that it's a dangerous dog. Anytime he's outside of the residence on a leash or outside of the pen, it has to be muzzled. And the pen itself has to be an escape-proof enclosure, which we've had the standards at other hearings that we've dished out with the diameter, the weights, the
fence as they go
the fence, into the ground, covered roof.
I think we could construct one at this point.
Mr. Rannigan's has a very good structure, but the problem is to access it, you go through the garage, and I believe, you know, as we had talked, he can go in and out of the house. Well, if the garage door's open,
He's gone.
he's gone. So, if we have an escape-proof enclosure, the dog's muzzled, and he wears a dangerous dog collar, I feel that, like I said, he's not human aggressive at this point. That would control the animal aggression and prevent any incident in the future.
Great. All right, well, why don't we ask if Mr. Rannigan or any members of the public would wish to speak at this time? We'll open up the public hearing portion.
I would, if you don't mind.
Sure, please do. If you could just state your name and address for the record.
Thank you. I'm Don Rannigan, 9 Bonanza Road. I'm the owner of Zika. I have some documentation. I only have 2 copies, if anybody likes. There's got some pictures, it's got the police report, that sort of thing in it.
Sure, we can
Maybe,
share.
I'm a dog lover.
Just take a look at it, and I can go through how I feel about it. So, as Officer Merrill said, we met and we talked. I do have a structure in place. It's a 6-foot chain link fence. It is secured to the ground. I think you even took a look at it at one point. It's a pretty secure structure. The dog does go through the garage to get to it and so forth. But I do think he's pretty well secured there, and pretty well secured when we walk him on a leash. So when we take him out, we use a training collar with him, and we take him on walks, and he's rather well behaved. He's well trained and a well behaved dog. I have some doubt as to whether my dog was actually the dog that attacked Elvis, Frank Lane's dog. And I have connected with Frank Lane. He and I have spoke directly. We've worked out his comfort level and my comfort level with what happened with Elvis and my dog, Zika. So I think he's pretty comfortable with where we're at. We're good neighbors, and I want to keep it that way. I've lived in the neighborhood for 20 years, so I don't want any gripes with any of my neighbors, and certainly not over a dog bite. So when Officer Merrill and I spoke, he laid out the information just like he did to you guys, and it seemed pretty convincing to me. So I agreed, as we talked about, he said, can you connect with Mr. Lane, Frank Lane, whose dog it was, and Ziamara, who was watching our dog. We were away for 2 weeks. She was living at the house. She was taking care of a dog. We have a cat there. a fish, a snake, you know, things like that. But she stayed at the house and cared for the animal. So when I left, I asked if I could get a copy of the police report, and right away he got it for me right away, and I was able to get it. And when I looked through it, there was some real. Now, let me start by saying Xiomara swears that the dog was with her the night of the attack. So the dog was in the home. She fed it, took it out to play, hung around with it, all those sorts of things. So I was confused, and I even said this to you. I'm confused about these conflicting stories, because I wasn't there. I didn't see it, and neither did you. And neither did either of the police officers, nor anyone, not the neighbors, or anyone but Frank Lane's son's girlfriend. She was the one that was taking the dog for the walk, and she's the only one that saw what happened, saw the dog and what happened to it. So when I looked at the police report, I looked down, and it was Officer Brown was called to the house, the Lane's house, and for the report that the dog was injured. So he went over to the Lanes, and they said their dog had been attacked by a possible German Shepherd mix, and the dog is brown and gray. And then they said that they weren't aware of any dog in the neighborhood that they knew of that met that description or was violent. So they had no idea who the dog was or whose dog it was or anything like that. So that happened. And then the next morning, Frank Lane met one of my neighbors, the Farrows, who I think are here tonight. And they said to him, we think it's the Rannigan's dog. So the Farrows didn't see the attack, but they related to Frank that that they thought it was my dog. And they said they thought they saw my dog at their slider that previous night. And so they said they saw him for a brief period of time, barked at their slider, because they have a Doberman Pinscher, I believe, barked there, and then ran away. So, so the next day, and I asked Officer Merrill in our meeting, I said, how did they identify?
Excuse me, sir. Can you continue to
gotta
address
talk into
the
the
board and
microphone.
talk
I'm
into
sorry.
the microphone, just so people at home can hear? And
So I asked Officer Merrill, how did they identify my dog? And he told me that they had walked by the yard, and they saw our dog in our yard, or either in the pen or out playing. I don't know exactly, but they were able to identify him and get the description by seeing him in our yard. So I can give a description of a dog if I walk by your yard and look at him too. And that's how I feel that the description was, that's how my dog was identified, according to Officer Merrill. So the next day, around noon, Officer Gogan Chelmsford police were called again. And Mr. Lane said, I'd like to make another report on the attack on my dog. And so he called the Chelmsford police, and they sent over Officer Gogan. And so he came over, and he talked to Frank Lane about the dog. And then it was described as a long-haired German Shepherd living at 9 Bonanza Road with an orange collar. So that's a stark difference between the 2 days. The day it happened, a couple hours later, it's a brown dog. It could be a Shepherd mix, and they have no idea where it is. And then the second day, it's a dark dog with long hair and an orange collar. It seems like an awful big disparity to me. So I don't think I'm not calling anybody a liar. I'm just saying this stuff can get rolling. It's, mistaken identity. Is it the dog? Isn't it the dog? Neither Frank Lane or myself saw this attack. So neither one, we're just going by what people are saying here. Mm-hmm. So from there, Officer Gogan drives directly to our house on 9 Bonanza Road. Mm-hmm. And so Xiomara is there, and he says, I'd like to talk to you about your dog attacking Frank Lane's dog. And so she goes, she was confused. She doesn't know anything about it. She goes, the dog was with me last night. And so he goes, can you bring the dog out and let me take a look at him? So she goes in, she gets the dog, they bring him out, they inspect him, they look at him, they check for blood or injury or any kind of distress on the dog. They don't find anything. And additionally, they don't find that he's aggressive. He isn't aggressive. He wasn't aggressive towards Officer Merrill when he saw him in the kennel, and he wasn't aggressive towards Officer Gogan when he came to the house and she brought him out. No, both those situations, they could be considered a little bit adversarial or tense. You know, I bet you Ziamara was a little nervous, but the dog didn't react to it. So,
Okay.
So again, that's the that's from the police report. Since then, I think I can prove two things. In this police report, what I included the police report, and then I included all my correspondence with Officer Merrill. So we had emails going back and forth, and I didn't write down the discussion we had. We both know what we said, but the emails are in here. And I also included, so when Officer Gogan left, Ziamara wrote down a timeline. She goes, this is what happened that night. And she just wrote down a timeline, and I've included it in this packet that you guys are looking at. And she also took some pictures of Ziga. And you can look at Officer Merrill's pictures or my pictures. There's a picture of his front snout and his undersnout. It was the next day, so who knows, but there's no sign of blood or injury on his snout or his nose or anywhere else. And there's some pictures of it, and she took some pictures of the floor where he comes and goes from the porch, and go ahead.
Oh, no, just, you're basically, you're denying the allegations that this was your dog. That's basically, if you could, maybe sort of try and wrap it up. I don't want to, by all means, cut you off, but I think we get a pretty clear understanding of where you're heading.
Sure. Yes, I'm doing two things. I'm trying to prove that it wasn't my dog. I don't think it was. And secondly, I would like to prove that he isn't an aggressive dog. So he included in herein is, go ahead.
Oh no, I don't want to cut you off. It sounded almost like when you first started out your comments that you had talked to your neighbor. It almost sounded to me like you had taken responsibility for it and you were trying to work it out with your neighbor because you were trying to be a good neighbor. That was
yes, that's true. That's true. I wasn't taking responsibility for the attack, but the police and Officer Merrill had told, and the neighbors said, Frank, it's the Rannigan's dog. So if you look at Officer Gogan's report, you'll see that he told Frank Lane that it was my dog.
Okay.
So when Officer Merrill said reach out to him, I don't think he meant call up Mr. Lane and say, that wasn't my dog. I think he was saying call up Frank Lane and try to work this out. That was my impression.
Right.
Is that what you meant?
I told you to contact the owner of the dog.
Yes.
Not necessarily saying it wasn't your attack. The dog suffered severe injuries.
Yeah. Eric, if you're going to speak, can I have you come up to the microphone?
Sure.
Good.
The dog suffered severe injuries. The photo there, the woman, Emmeline Thomas, identified the dog distinctly through the photograph that was taken by Officer Gogan. Mm-hmm. And we have the Farrows here that saw the dog out running around at the exact same time that the dog attacked.
Right. If we could, Mr. Rannigan, I would like to hear from a couple other people in the audience where it's a public hearing. Would that be okay now? I think we got a pretty good understanding. You sort of disagree with, the proof. I understand that, but I'd like to hear from some other people.
And that's fine. Just one point is that nobody ever spoke to the woman that walked the dog. Nobody ever asked her what the dog... This is all through Frank Lane. So nobody spoke, none of the officers, not Officer Merrill.
Yes, I did.
Oh, you did?
Yes,
Yeah.
Oh, you spoke to
Maybe
Emmeline?
Eric, could you come up to the microphone and clarify that point, if we could, Mr. Rannigan?
Yes, I did speak with the girl, Emmeline Thomas, about the dog attack, because that's where we got her name, her address, the time of the attack, and everything. So she was spoken with.
And she saw a photo, and that's
And she
what
saw the
used
photo
to
and
confirm
identified the dog through the photo, correct.
Okay. So,
All right, I apologize. That wasn't in the police report at all.
okay, no problem. So if you could, I'd like to, it is still a public hearing. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Hi, good evening.
Good.
Could you just please state your name and address for the record?
It's Samara Ramos, 158 Marsh Road, Pelham, New Hampshire.
Okay, great. And would you have something you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, kind of just to go off of what the timeline that I wrote, just that I was with the dog throughout the night. The dog was pretty heavily attached to me, so he was with me whenever I left the room, or if I was in a bedroom, he would be in the doorway right outside where I was laying. And I'd just like to point out that at 8 o'clock, or sorry, at 7:30, I was outside playing with him. So that lasted about 30 to 40 minutes. I came inside to feed him his dinner. And after that, he kind of just hung out around next to me in the hallway of the bathroom, of the bedroom I was in. The only time that he was out of my field of vision was when I was taking a shower around after 9 o'clock. And all the doors were locked, everything was closed. He did not have access to the outdoor kennel until I open it and allow him access through the garage. But other than that, I don't let him, I wasn't sure his behavior outside of the kennel, so I never opened the door if he wasn't in my field of vision. I do have a background in animal science. I have a bachelor's degree, and I know exactly what canine behavior looks like after a dog fight. I've worked with both domesticated and wild canines, and I know exactly what to look for if there was a dog fight and he didn't have any kind of blood underneath his muzzle. So the pictures that you guys showed us about Elvis, if he was mauled, the Zika would have blood all over the muzzle, underneath, around the collar, maybe even the front of his fur, but I didn't find signs of any of that. So that was, to my understanding, not any kind of sign of a dispute between another dog.
Okay.
So the dog never left?
Never left. Other than after 9 o'clock, I went to take a shower, but he was in the hallway when I went into the bathroom, and when I came out, he was laying in the room, around the living room area where I found him just sleeping, and he came back into the bedroom with me, and that was it.
Excuse me, why is the dog wearing a muzzle? Is he forced to wear a muzzle from some other incident?
He doesn't wear a muzzle.
I thought you said there was no blood on the
Oh, like his muzzle, like his
I'm sorry. Okay.
yeah, sorry.
Okay. All right, no, any questions? I appreciate that input, certainly.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir?
I have a question. Eric? Yes. Officer Merrill, I'm sorry. Did you, because we have, our dogs registered, at least most of them, I assume this one was registered and had proper rabies?
Yes.
Okay.
It was placed under a quarantine, but that quarantine was broken, and the dog was out, so we had a little bit of an issue with that aspect.
So he was quarantined after the event?
Right, yeah, exactly.
And he
after
broke the
event.
quarantine, so you had to restart the quarantine?
No,
No?
he finished the quarantine, but that's where he's seen that. He was at a kennel prior to his being able to be in public,
Yeah.
and that was told at that time.
Did you look at the registered dog owners around? Yeah, I suspected you would have, but I just
Yeah.
wanted to ask the question.
Yeah,
So there's nothing with a black, almost black,
Nothing that's a husky or a shepherd mix.
okay.
That neighborhood has a lot of dogs,
Mm-hmm.
and we do have the Pharaohs here that did see his dog out at that time, so.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, we
Okay.
should maybe ask, see if they'd like to speak this evening. Would anyone else like to speak on behalf of the public hearing? Please feel free to come up to the podium. And again, if you could state your name and address for the record, please.
Elaine Farrow, 12 Sierra Drive. I've lived in town for 41 years, and I would like to dispute the previous testimony. My husband and I were watching TV, and it was about 8:30 Monday evening, and all of a sudden, my dog, Toby, a Doberman, leaped off the couch and was so upset, barking at the sliders. So we put the light on because it was dark out, and of course, I recognized the Ranigan's dog. It's the only long-haired German Shepherd around. So I thought nothing of it. I shooed him away, saying, go home, go home. And he went up to the bird feeders, went up to the little patch of woods, and then I didn't see him. I calmed my dog down. So what happened was, when the attack happened, he came running from my side yard. So this is how we put 2 and 2 together. And I didn't know about the attack until the next morning, because I was walking my dog, and Ellie Lane was coming back from the vets, and she was so upset, and I saw Elvis in the back, and I'm still so upset about it. I didn't think he was going to make it, but he is getting better. But it was a bad mauling.
And you had seen the Rannigan's dog previously, so you knew it was
I knew
their dog.
I knew the Rannigan's dog, yes. And of course, you know, when I looked out the sliders, and my husband, we both said, oh, Rannigan's dog is loose. And it really isn't loose. You know, I've never seen it loose before. I've never seen them walk the dog either, except after the attack. The girl that was watching it, I have seen her walk the dog 3 times. That was it.
Okay. All right.
So,
any questions?
but I have no questions. It is that dog.
No, we appreciate your testimony this
Okay.
evening. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on behalf of the public hearing this evening? Looks like we have one more individual. Good evening, sir.
I'm the other half of David Farrow, 12 Sierra Drive. It's the same thing. I just saw the dog in the backyard and thought nothing of it until my wife came back home and had seen how the other dog was beaten up so badly. And when we were told that they were denying it. That's the only reason I have no problems with the neighbors whatsoever. But that dog did do a job, and the dog had also attacked another dog in the back, and another small dog. And while they were, I don't know, they go away quite a bit, they were away again also. And they had made 3 phone calls to the police, and somehow they get lost because it was on the weekend. And the neighbors had to grab the dog. In fact, the shepherd had the other dog's head in his mouth. And somehow the neighbors got out of the way.
And I don't know, I appreciate that.
Okay, we're just talking past. That's the only reason I got involved, was because he attacked another dog before, previously.
No, I appreciate that comment. I just don't want to get too far into another incident while we're discussing this matter, but
So it's just the idea that they had to acknowledge. That was the only reason I got involved. You know, that if my dog did something to someone's, I'd be right up there opening my wallet. I'm a dog lover, animal lover.
thank you for your comments. Any other members of the public who wish to speak this evening? Okay, hearing none. Eric, would you like to come back up this evening? I think we've heard different sides of the story, so it'll be up to us certainly to make a decision. Maybe we should leave the public hearing open. I mean, while we're discussing the orders, I think I tend to agree with Officer Merrill. It's a little concerning that the dog got out and they're not taking responsibility for it. But we do have eyewitnesses and the testimony of the person walking the dog. Tagged, saw a photo and identified the dog. So I personally do feel comfortable moving forward with the deeming the dog dangerous and moving forward with some orders of restraint. Personally, in accordance with Eric's recommendations. Is there any questions from members of the board? Any other discussion about that?
I think where we started is probably where we're going to end up.
Right, certainly. I would.
So your recommendation is to?
My recommendation is a dangerous dog collar to signify his nature. Anytime the dog leaves the house, be muzzled, and if he's in an enclosure, it be an escape-proof enclosure. And we have on file the dimensions, the specifics. They're supposed to be roofed, buried in the ground. So that requirement be mailed out to Mr. Rannigan as well.
Okay, in the motion, if we so make it, we can say the escape-proof enclosure in accordance with Mass General Law. That's what I would feel comfortable with this evening. If there's no more comments, I'd like to entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Close the public hearing.
Second that?
All in favor? Aye. Nays or abstentions? Public hearing is closed.
I'm just writing my notes here.
So the first order would be actually to deem the dog dangerous in accordance with the statute.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion that that we deem the dog at 9 Bonanza Road. His name is
Ziga.
That we classify him as a dangerous dog. That he wear a dangerous dog collar, which is orange.
Yellow and red?
Yellow and red.
Yeah, yellow and red. And that the owner provide an escape-proof enclosure per Mass state law.
Actually, town requirements as well.
Town requirements.
Oh, town requirement? Okay, town requirement.
And when he's outside, he'll be muzzled.
And that when he is outside, he will be muzzled.
And that any violation of any of those orders will
result in
the animal control officer seizing the dog until a next public hearing?
Right.
Until a public hearing can be scheduled. Would that be acceptable addition to the motion?
Is that necessary, Eric?
Oh, absolutely, because
okay.
usually it's, if any further conditions or another incident happens, the dog is seized and ordered euthanized.
Okay, fine. And that the dog be seized if he has another incident similar to this.
No, or any violation of the
Or any
orders?
violations.
Okay.
He's got his license.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second the motion.
So, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions?
Abstain.
One abstention. Motion passes. One abstention. Okay, Eric?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So you'll work out the those terms with the owner and make sure he complies?
Yeah, when the town manager's office sends out the letter stating, yeah, they can send the dimensions and everything, and then we can do an impromptu or a visit after it's done.
Right,
All right.
and the letter's sent certified, so we know that it's
All right.
received by the homeowner.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, where are we?
Move on to agenda items number 8, reports and presentations. We have our town accountant, Darlene Lucier.
Poor Darlene.
We kept her up late tonight.
It's a late night. Who set this agenda?
Sorry, Darlene.
Oh, good
We
evening.
have as much time with you as we want. Stuff.
I won't spend a lot of time. We'll just. So tonight I'm here. I've been asked to come to the board to present our fiscal 15 year-end fiscal year closeout. Happy to report fiscal 15 we did pretty well. I want to start off with the revenues. I was trying to bring up but it's in your packet. Revenues did year extremely strong.
Yes.
Our local receipts were actually about $950,000 over what our budgeted amount was for local receipts. I just want to go over a few line items in those local receipts. First one being motor vehicle excise tax. We were over budget on that appropriation by about $948,000. So people were still buying cars that year. This year was a good year for the manufacturers, I guess. The last 3 years we've seen this trend. It's been one of the line items in the local receipts that we've exceeded. I'm not sure that's going to continue. I'm not sure what we'll do next year. I can't imagine that everybody's going to keep buying new cars. But for this year, that was a nice help for us on the local receipts level. The other line item that you see that was exceeded what we budgeted was the penalties and interest on tax and excise. That was a one-time, I just want to kind of point that out, because we got one-time monies from the Glenview sand and gravel. We got about $210,000 of interest penalties and we did it was a tax lien on that, but we ended up getting that those receipts in there. So that was kind of one of the pieces of that. And then the other line item I want you to look at is permitting. We actually exceeded that by about $170,000. A lot of that had to do, it is definitely do with the building permits, but a lot of it was the solar panels. People have been putting solar panels on the roofs, so they have to actually get, a lot of it is like they have to get electrical permitting. There's a lot of permitting for the solar panels or people putting on their roofs. So I've just kind of asked with the building inspector why, where that money was coming from, because we don't have a lot of big developments. So I thought, where was that coming from? And that's really a piece of it, the people putting solar panels on their roofs.
I have a quick question. So on the budget for miscellaneous non-recurring, what were you expecting there where you got such a shortfall? You have the budget 438, the actual was 181. What's in there that?
Oh, good question.
By its definition, it's non-recurring.
I know, but
I think as we actually
put something in there, and I was just curious what that.
Yeah,
what that would be.
in the last few years, we've actually we've exceeded that. A lot of it was the sale on bonds. We've had a lot of the money was the sale on bonds. This year, we did have actually more money on the sale on bonds, but we actually had to reserve it on the balance sheet. Because it has to be used to pay down the debt. So I had reserved pieces of it. Only this amount could actually go to the general fund.
Okay.
And that's kind of it's a DOR requirement that they make us reserve portions. If we get an excess on sale and bonds, that we have to reserve it on the balance sheet to pay down the debt.
Great job predicting the hotel rooms tax, Paul.
That was right on, yeah. Those are right on the money.
$30.
And again, if our real estate and property tax revenue there, we're collected at we have a 99.8%. I don't think we can get any better than that. So, so those are really just the pieces of the revenue. Like I said, we did have almost $1,950,000 higher than what the budget amount is. That will actually factor into our free cash calculation. That'll help. That'll be part of what we have for free cash. I'll just give you, we have not had it certified yet. I thought I was going to have it today for the meeting. I didn't get it here back from my Department of Revenue representative. It has all been submitted. I thought on Friday when I talked to her that she was going to get me the number today. It is approximately a $2 million number that I submitted for, but it hasn't been certified yet, so I can't actually tell you if that's going to be the number, what the number will be, because I never know what they might hit me with, or...
It's usually pretty close.
It's pretty close, yeah. So those are the revenue pieces. The expenditures, again, another happy story there. We did very well in the expenditure piece. The turnbacks from the departments totaled about $866,000. That doesn't include the deficit. We did have a deficit in snow and ice. What happened there is we actually had a deficit of $655,000 deficit. We submitted to FEMA about $270,000. What the Department of Revenue allowed us to do this year is take 70% of what we submitted to the FEMA and set that aside in a grant. So I set aside $202,000, bringing down what we would have to put on the recap or cover at our town meeting, at our October town meeting, would be the $452,000. So that was just a nice way for them to help the communities out, to set that 75% aside and wouldn't have to be put onto the recap and raised for the following year. There's a couple departments in there, and I just wanted to, you're probably looking at it, and it's public safety. They turned back probably the largest amount. What made that up is police salaries, because we had the chief had left, and then we have a new chief. There was some difference in salary there, so we had some cost savings. But we also had $100,000 worth of a 911 grant, which freed up monies in the dispatcher's salaries. So what I actually do is when that grant comes in, I move the dispatcher's salaries over to that grant account, so freed up about $100,000 worth of salaries in in the dispatcher line item. And in the fire department, it was really their overtime salaries. There was about $122,000 left over in that salary line item. Chief Curran thought he was going to have a higher overtime salary than he actually had. We did put some money, we did make a budget adjustment to that in the spring, and he really didn't need it, so it just ended up closing back down to the general fund. Again, so the $866,000 that is turned back from the departments also is going to be, that'll be part of a free cash, part of the free cash. So, we've got 866 plus another 5, so we're looking at $1.5 million there already, and then there'll be other factors that will help out with the free cash. I did give you copies of all of the revolving funds. I won't go through them all. What I will, probably the piece, circuit breaker, the fourth quarter circuit breaker for the schools came in August, and that was for $644,751. So they ended the year in a small deficit of $12,000. They're allowed to do that as long as the money comes in before September 1st, which it did. So that won't hit our free cash. It's just.
Is that on page 1?
Yeah, it should be under revolving funds on Fund 22.
Yeah.
If you look down halfway through the page, it says school circuit breaker reimbursement. They had a deficit. You'll see there's a minus. That's a deficit of $12,755. They're allowed to overspend as long as the funds, because they were late getting their fourth quarter, and so then they can spend their funds in a deficit as long as I can prove to the Department of Revenue that money comes in before September.
I have a question. I
Sure.
know, Paul, you and I have spoken about this. Is there a separate revolving fund set up for the replacement of the turf field?
Yes, and it's on this page. Well, it is the turf field account. It's on the second, I think it's on the second page, almost all the way down to the bottom of the page, and it says school turf fields.
Okay.
That's the balance in the turf field account. That account is paying the debt. They have to have enough revenue to pay the yearly debt payment. And they said at town meeting that they were also going to try to set aside $100,000 a year, I think it was, to try to be able to pay for the cost of when that field needs to be replaced. So I think
And that's to replace what they call the carpet. I mean,
yeah,
we were all in
right,
that
the turf, yeah,
committee meeting, yeah.
the actual turf field. So I'm not seeing that 100 at this point. I'm not seeing them having at the end of the year an extra $100,000 after paying the debt. So
Okay.
that's
There's 22,000 in there, that's all that's been generated?
that's all that's in there right now. And we their debt payment is a significant, we're looking at probably about $80,000 worth of a debt payment. So they need additional monies to be put in this account for this year to pay the debt down.
When's that payment made? Is that in the spring?
No. Yeah.
Next spring?
John can speak, there's 2 payments.
Didn't mean to interrupt, just to assist. There's an interest-only payment in November, and then next spring is the principal and the second
How
interest
much is
payment.
that interest payment? Do you
Off the top of my head, I think for the interest and principal, it's probably about 120,000, somewhere in there. I'd have to
Okay.
have it down soon.
That
Most
sounds
of that's
about
in the
right.
spring. The fall one is a small.
Fall be interest-only is probably about 25,000, or 20, around 20,000.
Hopefully it's 22,000.
There's interest only, and there's,
There's an interest payment, there's a interest payment and then a principal payment.
okay, did they pay 2 in 2015?
Yes.
Yes.
They did.
Yeah,
okay.
and they closed the year with a $22,000 balance, is what Tom
Right.
was reporting.
Exactly.
So since July 1, they would have rental money coming in, which will then get applied to the current year's payments.
Correct.
Thank you.
The auditors, we do have Powers and Sullivan is in. They're in here. They're in their second week of the audit. So we should be wrapping up by Thursday or Friday of this week. They should be finishing their audit. I did meet with the partner, Rich Sullivan. He said everything's going smoothly. Everything's clean this year. Just to give you all how we closed with the schools. Everything balanced. The school department closed their books. We balanced all of our revolving accounts, all of our grant accounts, and general fund account went very smooth. So we have no issues with our year-end close with the school department this year. We should be probably getting a final report from Powers and Sullivan, I would say late October or beginning of November.
Good.
On that. I do want to, I know that the board, and specifically, I think, Bob, you had asked for some breakdowns of some funds. One of the things I want to just talk about is the cost analysis for the back parking lot that was done by DPW.
Which looks wonderful, by the way.
So I think that I had given you the analysis. I just wanted to kind of tell the public where the funding sources were for these pieces. Total expenditure back there is going to be about $317,000. In the funding sources, we got $47,000 from the Housing Authority because they're part of that back parking lot. Planning Board, 45. DPW operations were 40. In the fire station construction, there was a fund in there for $185,000. So that totaled about $317,000 to do the back parking lot. We did get some like-kind donations, not really actually checks, but for the baseball league field, they did part of their irrigation back there themselves, paid for that themselves. And then the girls' softball field, they're going to be doing out their own raking of the field, installing the bases, and then completion of the infield. So they're going to handle all of that. So that's nice of them to do that. What just got completed and hasn't been paid for yet is they finished the sidewalks coming in off of Chelmsford Street. They just did the hydro seed and then just finished the hydro seeding, which you see all that kind of greeny stuff out there.
Yeah, I don't see any money in there from Little League. Did Little League give any money?
Well, the Little League, the baseball league, they did partial the irrigation system. They paid for part of the irrigation system that was done back there.
The Little League group that runs the other ones?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, not the softball field. The girls' softball league is separate from the I don't call it boys' softball. I want to call it the baseball league because I don't want to. What I did provide you in the second page is a list of all the vendors that we have paid for the project. It's total of $278,000. Again, and then we still have the hydro seeding has to be paid for, and whatever the cost is for any of the materials they're using for the sidewalk coming in off Chelmsford Street, which I think when talking with our DPW director, Gary Persichetti, he said it was that it's kind of the handicap piece where they have to put the little bubbly
the metal thing
down. Yeah,
the plastic
so
thing.
That's what they were doing over there. All of the work, the labor was done by our DPW facilities. So there's, really no labor cost in here because if they weren't doing that back there, their labor cost would be they were doing that all on work hours. A lot of the materials, the drainage work that had to be done back there prior to doing any of the work. If anybody remembers last year, you used to have to drive through a lake after it rained. So a lot of drainage work had to be done back there. So a lot of the drainage materials was, and a lot of almost, I'd say 100% of the fill that they had to bring in there was all supplied by our DPW staff, things that they already had held in their DPW, so we didn't actually have to go out and purchase that.
Do they plan to put any, I know it's very narrow, but any seating, any stands or anything?
Gary, you want to come up, Gary? You
I
sat there all night.
He's here.
Might as well
I didn't
use
even
it.
see him. Oh, and they're also going to be striping.
Just woke him up.
I forgot to say that they're striping also soon.
Okay.
They haven't done the striping.
When I was driving by tonight, I saw, it's pretty narrow and you've got some trees planted, but.
If you look at the sidewalk that runs from Chelmsford Street up towards the Housing Authority, with the backstop, you'll see there's a cutout and it's all asphalt already. The bleachers go back on there.
Okay. Okay, great, thank you.
Can I just ask, when is the striping going to be done?
Gary, do you have a date on the striping?
Probably about 3 weeks.
3 weeks?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
So I commend our DPW. I think they did a great job back there. And then it just, when it really rained hard the other day, I thought, oh, let's really see how the drainage works. And it works good. We didn't have to just
And
drive
the
right down.
landscaping in the middle.
It looks very pretty.
Yeah.
It looks really nice back
great.
there. They did a great job, so.
Who did it? Did the garden club do it, or?
Nope, DPW did it.
Oh,
All of the
DPW done it?
landscaping, yep.
Because I know out front, the garden club used to do it.
They were multitasking back there.
Very good, looked good.
The last analysis I'm doing tonight is for the school department. I was asked by the board to do an analysis of basically what it cost of all the appropriations, the personnel costs and additional costs for all of the financial issue that we had the fiscal 14-15, and now we will have some going into 16. The first thing I wanted to talk about was the actual appropriations, the total amount of appropriations that had to be covered in their 15 budget because they had basically had a fiscal 14 shortfall. The first thing we had is with $141,000, $141,350 of fiscal 14 unpaid invoices. The funding source was free cash, so that we needed to have a vote of that at town meeting. The second appropriation was for fiscal 14 insufficient appropriations, which was the $878,340 that was invoices that were paid in 15 that were 14 fiscal 14 invoices. How that was broken out is we used $573,000 school choice and $305,340 free cash. And in the spring, after Mr. Antonelli did an analysis, and I also with Melanson and Heath to find out what they needed, additional costs they needed in their fiscal 15 budget to get through the fiscal 15 budget. They needed an additional $588,751, which they used $165,000 of circuit breaker and $423,751 of free cash. So the total amount to make their fiscal 15 whole for appropriations was that $1.6 million. Of the $1.6 million, we did use $573,000 of the school choice, $165 of circuit breaker, and $870,441, which was the special town meeting that needed to be held to appropriate that money from free cash to make their budget whole. Yes, Bob?
Okay, the 1.608, that's everything in 14 and 15?
Those were the first two were the actual invoices that were paid, that were 14 appropriate, they were 14, fiscal 14 invoices or expenditures that needed to be paid in 14.
Right.
There was no appropriation for that. You would have overspent their 14 budget if they had paid those.
So I guess what my question is this more than 1.608?
Yes,
Because
I'm gonna.
It has to include all that. I gotten ahead of you?
Yeah.
Okay,
let me go.
sorry.
It's okay. So these were those were just basically, I just wanted to, because this was what was actually voted at town meeting, so I kind of wanted to keep this separate from what actually had to be absorbed through budget reduction in the school budget for these additional costs. In fiscal 15, of course, we had some personnel costs. The school business manager, Ms. McWilliams, was paid the fiscal year 14 from 7/1/14 to her date of dismissal, which was on 1/20. She was paid $91,482. Mr. Antonelli was paid $119,000 for his services of 11/1 to 6/30. He left on June 30th. So the actual expenditure for the business manager's line item budget was $210,000. If we had paid Ms. Williams her total salary for the fiscal 14, her total salary is $123,240. So that line item had a deficit, a budget deficit of $87,242. Along with that, we had to pay Melanson and Heath. We had the forensic auditor come in for $18,000. So the additional cost of doing business for fiscal 15 was $105,242, and the funding source was basically budget reductions, through the budget reductions.
Another question.
Yep.
I don't know what exact date the business manager left, but in 2015, we paid $91,482.
Yes, she's from her. That was her fiscal year,
Oh, yeah, those are
7/1,
the dates.
and the
Okay.
date that she left was on 1/20.
Now, the $123,240 down here,
That would have been what she would have been paid if for her full salary for fiscal 14. I'm sorry, for fiscal 15.
shouldn't we delete the $91,842? Because from the point where Frank Antonelli took over, that's that salary. You know what I'm saying? The salary for her is gone.
No, she was.
We only paid through,
But that's what she's showing you. She's showing you.
I am showing you the difference. I'm showing you what was actually expended
yeah,
from the business manager's budget to what was actually budgeted. So there was a deficit of $87,000.
Salary,
right,
but we spent 210.
okay. So that's the $87,242 deficit? Okay.
Yes.
In the audit.
And then the audit.
And then I added the audit in there. So the personnel cost plus the additional cost, we were looking at of $105,242 deficit.
Plus, yeah, deficit, yeah.
Yep. What I did put in there, just to show you, we did have unemployment costs. We had two folks that were let go at the school department.
Right.
So they had collected unemployment. So that's just a cost to the town, but I just wanted to show you that, that would have been piece of this. So the unemployment cost for fiscal 15 is the $45,102, and that is for the two folks that were laid off. So the ongoing cost is in now fiscal 16, and that would be the superintendent's release. We've paid 18 days vacation of the $12,552.48, $15,000 of sick pay per his contract, 66 days, 7/1 till 9/30, and then his contract.
What's the 66 days for?
The 66 days are the first part of the settlement that he had, would said that from 7/1 to 9/30 that we would pay him. And then the second part of the settlement was that if after, as of October 1st, that if he did not have a superintendent position, that we would then continue paying him. So we will continue paying him 87 days from October 1st through January 30th of 2016, which totals $61,815.24. So the total compensation will be $136,262.04, which was not budgeted in the fiscal 16 budget, which will have to be through budget reductions or an adjustment. I just put a funding source at this point for budget reductions. I have had a brief conversation with the new business manager, and she thinks they can try to look at line items and maybe do some reductions. But
Right, Darlene, if I could, some of these costs, if an employee leaves and depending on their contract, we pay anyways, like vacation time, and in his particular contract, the sick time.
we would have paid the 18 days. We would have paid the vacation days, and yes, we would have paid the sick per contract.
Okay.
That is a definite. Those two would have been
The 27,000.
been part of his. Those were part. Yes.
The 66 days and the 87 days were.
That was the
Correct.
The
Yeah,
negotiation.
those were negotiated
we would
pieces.
normally not-
Thank you for bringing that up. That's a good point. Yep. Additional costs that we had, they did have to pay for the Maslow review that came in, which was the $6,118, and they've paid a.
Didn't have to pay?
They did.
Oh, they did?
They did.
Okay.
Yep. And then they've had about $12,000 worth of legal costs due to this situation.
Well, they're the legal person.
Yes, their legal costs, yes. So if you add up from the 1.6 from the budget shortfall and all of these items, your total, it comes to about $1.9 million is the total cost.
Thank you. You did a great job.
Thank you.
After he checked your math.
Yes. Well, sometimes so. That's good. That's a good thing. The last thing on my agenda for tonight is that I'm responding to a letter from a town meeting rep that was brought to the board. I don't know if you want me to read the letter, how you want me to...
No, I mean...
Just kind of tell how we're kind of moving forward.
I think, well, a report on accounting policy and procedure updates, and I think the individual's question, which I relayed to, have answered, is basically there was an issue and some bills were able to, get through the process that shouldn't get paid. Ultimately, we did catch it, and we did catch some other bills that made that happen, but just could you tell us what policies or procedures that have been put in place, or what changed to make sure that that wouldn't happen again? And I think specifically the fact that as I understand it, some things were changed on one of the cover sheets, the dates of the invoices, because the fiscal year was wrong, right? And at first, those slipped through, but then later on they were caught. So is it because things were unfolding in your office, realized that and was digging deeper into the bills? Is that basically what happened, and is that how we're going to make sure this doesn't happen again? Because the big question town meeting always had back then and has now is, what changed to make sure this doesn't happen again? So if you can expand on that, what happened and how it changed, that'd be great.
The biggest and the place where security was lacking was in the process of is the purchase order system. At the time, in fiscal 14, purchase orders were being entered, approved, deleted, posted, basically being handled by one person. There was no check and balances. The school business manager was basically doing all of that. That's really not a good policy to have, because there's no checks and balances. Somebody can then go in and change dates and void purchase orders, and that's what I know Powers and Sullivan found, and I know Melanson and Heath did in their audit also. So one of the first things that we did was we went into Munis, and we just said we need to look and what things need to be turned on. There was really in that module, there was really no security turned on whatsoever. So the way that now the procedures are working, and I know that the new school business manager is even looking at it further, but what we did at that time was we stopped from having the school business manager being the one putting in the purchase orders. We allow the department heads or the principals or the secretaries, they will flow. There has to be some order of workflow. There was no order of workflow. So the purchase order is entered right now. If the purchase order is entered and it's more than the budgeted appropriation, it immediately gets rejected. The business manager is notified that this purchase order is being rejected, and it's her decision or the superintendent's decision whether they want to then go ahead and still approve that purchase order.
So they can override that in the system?
They can, but they can do that. I don't recommend it, but those are the only people that can make that recommendation to change that.
But there's a trail.
There's a trail, an audit trail, yes.
Does it have to go to a higher person to be approved?
Well, it's the business manager or the superintendent would have to get involved at that level if it's over that. I don't think that that's going to happen. I'm just saying that that's in the new business manager. We may even be changing that. I'll talk about the one chart of accounts in a minute, but a lot of things are being checked, double-checked, and triple-checked. There were some invoices that went by me that did get missed. Systems aren't 100 foolproof I'm not always 100% correct. Errors do happen. We do try to do our best. And whether these invoices were going to get paid in fiscal, if they all got paid in fiscal 14, we would still be at a special town meeting making an appropriation, because those invoices would have thrown the fiscal 14 budget over by that $1 million. The budget, both, if you look at both audits, they both state, both Powers and Sullivan Lanson, and he'd say that fiscal year, fiscal 14, they overran their budget by a significant amount of money. And it's all of these invoices that for whatever reason were never brought to light, or just, we really ever knew why the business manager didn't put them through.
What about if they put a purchase order in, let's say for software, and then when the bill comes payable, someone signs off and it's Lindt chocolate, 1 million pounds of Lindt chocolate. Do they question them there? That
We do a match. We do a match on the purchase order. Yeah, they have to liquidate. When the accounts payable clerk is in there, the purchase order, it has to match the invoice. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And that's good to know. I just wanted to clarify, when you said you were digging in a little deeper, and as I understand it, the correct dates were put on the cover sheet for an invoice for the right fiscal year, even though they weren't. But say now moving forward, your office will check the dates versus the cover sheet, so that can't happen again.
Correct.
Is that accurate?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I mean that's a good change to.
We've always checked them. What was happening in a lot of those purchase orders and invoices, the dates were being changed on those invoices too. I did get some sped invoices that had older dates in them. That did have on the cover sheet actually had an older date. A lot of those probably shouldn't have even been paid out of a general fund. They should have been paid out of a circuit breaker account, because that's really where the sped invoices would have gone. But it's really, we did miss a couple of those invoices. The unfortunate thing is that after those invoices were caught, a week later, I received another batch of invoices for almost $150,000 they're trying to be put through, that they're trying to be put through again. I know that in an open meeting, and I think it was at a FinCom meeting, that the auditor asked the school finance team if there was any more outstanding invoices, and the answer was no, and a week later I got a whole other batch. So it really is up to the business. It really is the business manager's responsibility to put forth to anybody. If I was doing something and I'm presenting it to the town manager for his signature, I would hope that I have it right for him, and that I'm not expecting him to sign off on something that's not. And I think that's where I know the school committee, unfortunately at the time, the school committee wasn't really trained about what they really need to look at in a warrant, and what questions to ask to the school business manager. I know that it was sometimes you asked a question to the school business manager, and you were stonewalled, or you never got an answer, because that happened to me several times. So I think one great thing is that communication is better. We're putting in a lot of security systems in the system to have hard stops. We are installing the one chart of accounts, which is, we are hoping on Wednesday that's going to happen. We've been Michelle came on July 1st, so we've been working with her I wanted her to take a look at the chart of accounts and be comfortable with it before we go live, before we turned it on live. Because it's really going to be, she needed it to make sure it helped her with her year-end report. I know Mr. Antonelli did a lot of work on it, but I really wanted Michelle Cresta to be very comfortable with that. So that's also going to give me access to all the purchase orders. That's something I didn't have access before. We were literally on two separate systems, so what was going on in their system is not what was not happening in my system. So I wasn't seeing purchase orders, I wasn't seeing requisitions or any of that. So now I'll have access to all of that information.
So are you going to see purchase order change orders in the future? Will you at
Yes.
least get a notification? So that was a huge part of the problem before. So you'd be
Yes.
able to presumably catch that much sooner now. If
Yes.
somebody tried to change a whole bunch of purchase orders, you'd know.
Right. I mean, it's basically now I feel it's my system, and I have a lot of control over that. I did not have much control. And the unfortunate thing too is we missed a few. A journal entry would be done on the school side, but if somebody missed sending me a journal entry, it wasn't getting done on my side. I mean, this is another whole duplication of error. And when you have multiple keystrokes, that's where you have errors that happen. I'd have to send reports to the school department for balancing. They would have to send me reports. We'd have to be sitting there looking through. Now it's all on one system. When a journal entry is done, the journal entry is done once. It's in the system. It's posted. It doesn't have to worry about it. I mean, right now we're literally pulling information back and forth, which is not a good way to do business. So we're excited about doing this one chart of accounts. It's going to be a lot of training for everybody. It was a bigger project than we had anticipated. We have approximately 3,700 general ledger accounts now. So my general ledger tripled because the school department has so many line items that they have to track. We did delete a lot, but we did have to bring in a lot of their line items. So now when you guys, hopefully soon, when you get budget reports, there'll be a lot more information in those reports also, especially for the school department. Other things that I just wanted to kind of talk a little bit. We did, again, about the warrant approval process. I did meet with several of the school committee members, sat down with them. They took the time to come in my office and we sat down. We went through the warrant process, what they should be looking for, just really ask questions. Michelle Cresta said, I think you trained them too well, because now they spend hours sitting in my office signing warrants and asking me tons of questions, and it takes me a day to respond to them in email. And she does respond to them in an email so that they have it, and it's a documented answer back to their question. She says it's working very well, and we are having I've had no issues with any warrants coming over, and they do ask a lot of questions, which is good. And then the team, the two finance teams, we've been working really closely with the superintendent and with Michelle Cresta on just a lot of issues, and mostly just on these one chart of accounts, bringing munis into one, which I just think is looking back. I actually read just recently the report from Lanson and Heath and Powers and Sullivan for the year end. They couldn't say it enough, and then I went back to when the DOR was here, and that was one of their recommendations also. People just can't stress it enough that it has to be just one system. It's really the only way you can really manage a budget. Very easily, my budget was always fine over here, but it was very hard for me to be managing that over there because I just didn't have it in my system to see it.
Mm-hmm.
So I do want to assure the Board of Selectmen and the community that we have put a lot of security implementations in place already. I think there's going to be a lot more, because when we move forward, we actually had Munis come out. We had a payroll consultant and a financial consultant come out, go through every piece of the security. One of the things is setting up the way we had set up people in the system. We had them set up wrong. You're supposed to set up roles, you're supposed to set up, and then you attach people to the roles. We were using people as roles. They just really helped us a lot with setting up a lot of those security features, turning things on and off, and really where they have seen, because they're experts of doing this, where they've seen other communities have issues. So it's been good to have them come out.
And did they come out and do that just as part of their license agreement if you requested? So they just did that for us, basically?
Yep. They're helping us with this implementation, which is great, because they've been a lot of help in how to go forward with this. Any other questions? Like I said, this year they've already done their year-end testing. We have no invoices that got paid. They've already done that. So Rich Sullivan assured me when he came in on Friday to sit down with the finance director and myself that the audit was going very well. They had no year-end issues. I'm sure there'll be some findings because they always got to find something, but their assurance that the financials look very clean. Everything looks great. The year-end purchase order, what the school department gave them for a year-end open PO list was nice and cleaned and matched my general ledger to a T. So we were all happy that was a good, clean year to clean out. So we think we're on a good starting point with the new team that's over there and working very closely with them to make sure that all of these safeguards are in place.
I'm glad you're happy with the people you're working with now, and it seems like there have been a lot of improvements, so I'm glad you're able to share that with us, but not only us, the community as well, so I'm sure they all appreciate it.
And if anybody has any concerns or anything like that, or they want to come in and look at the system and see it, we're going to be going live very shortly, so.
Great.
Thank you.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you, Darlene.
Move on to agenda item number 9, signing the fall annual town meeting warrant.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This evening is the third time I've presented warrant articles to you. Tonight, your action is to sign the warrant for the town meeting. In your next meeting in 2 weeks, you'll begin your process of making recommendations on fall annual town meeting warrants, and then the following meeting, a week later, you would finish your recommendations, because that would bring you to the 5th of October, and then the 12th of October is Columbus Day. We will not be meeting, and then the 19th fall town meeting session opens. It's the exact, town council has reviewed this warrant, so this is in final legal form, reflects all the changes from the planning board's hearings and their review of by town council of the warrant articles of zoning. The only change or addition or modification from the list I gave you at your last meeting 2 weeks ago is I did receive a request from the Mill Road, from Bill Griffin regarding the Mill Road Committee. He requested to place an article on the warrant for structural and building code analysis of the 101 Mill Road building. So there's an article on the warrant for that. Other than that, it's the last meeting, you may recall, we had 18 articles. Now we have 19. So this is what we have, and with your approval to sign this warrant, we'll submit it down to the clerk's office for the constable's posting, and FinCom will start its work on Thursday evening, and then again they'll get their book out the beginning of October.
Very good, thank you, Paul. Any questions regarding the warrant? All right, I'll entertain a motion to sign.
Move that we sign the warrant for the fall town meeting containing 19 articles.
Sure. As presented.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Nays or abstentions? That's unanimous. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Move on to selectmen liaison reports and referrals.
I'll pass in light of the time.
Okay.
Same thing.
Pass. Anyone else?
Yes. I got just a couple brief things. So the school committee is going to be meeting tomorrow night, and they're going to be there's going to be a presentation on the MASBO financial review. You guys have been talking
I asked
about that.
yeah.
Yep. That's one of the first things on the agenda. There's also Paul, you weren't in the meeting, right? But there was a
No.
meeting last week.
Last Tuesday morning.
A finance subcommittee meeting, and there's going to be some issues and a potential shortfall regarding special education. They've had some kids move into the district. About 7 kids have been reclassified, so there's going to be a discussion on this, I'm guessing tomorrow night, probably as well with a FinCom meeting on Thursday night. Let me see what else. I just mentioned there's a FinCom meeting on Thursday evening. Oh, on Chelmsford Telemedia, they're going to start something new starting this Saturday and Sunday on the government channel. You know, if you look on the weekends, and I'm usually looking on the weekends, as I'm cleaning the house or whatever, usually the boards are up.
right? Well, they're going to start cycling through the major board meetings for the entire weekend, so it would give the community a chance to catch up.
Yeah.
So, for example, Saturday morning, they'll start with the Lowell City Council meeting, then tri-board meeting, Finance Committee, this is on the 26th, Finance Committee, Planning Board, School Committee, and Board of Selectmen. And then on Sunday, it starts cycling through again. So they're going to run that on the weekends and see what the reaction is with the public. Why are you
Right.
smiling, Paul?
I won't be able to get any shopping done now.
Did you convince,
Stuck at
was
home.
that a move by you? No?
That was a recommendation by me as a
The only thing
resident.
I'd like to see is a schedule. So if I don't want to sit there and watch 18 hours of, and the Board of Selectmen are going to be on at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, then I know.
What do you mean you want to see a schedule? Go online.
On the tube. No? Okay.
Okay. Oh, I see what you mean. Okay, I can pass along
Yeah,
that
see if
guidance.
there's a way they can do it.
Okay. But that's pretty much it. Those were a couple of items. Oh, one other thing. I would like to recommend to the board that we reinstate the turf field committee. And I'd like to talk with Paul about this, and then at the next meeting, bring back a recommendation about the number of members. But I think it's important, because I'd like to touch base and make sure that the fields are being cared for, but I'd also like this, there seems to be a little disagreement about this fund that's supposed to be set aside each year to replace the turf field in
10 years.
in 10 years. And it's my opinion that that was part of the deal of getting the turf fields, was that we were going to be setting this money aside each year, and I'm not sure everybody's on board with that.
Right. Should we?
So I want to make that clear, because I don't want to end up having $1 million bond 8-9 years from now.
Maybe something we can touch upon at the tri-board meeting.
Yeah, we can touch upon that. It'd be good maybe to have them give us an update to see if they do have some plan in place, but certainly if not, I mean, creating a committee might be the best way to
Give them a heads up on it.
resolve that. But yeah, it'd be good to
Give
give
the
them
school committee a heads up.
little heads up and see if they want to
Well, they're the ones that
address
told us
it.
They wanted to take it over.
Now, are we meeting next week in tri-board?
Next Monday.
Yeah.
Next Monday.
21st, right?
Next Monday
Yeah.
at 7 at the
Okay.
school admin building. And that's where we'll be presenting information regarding the, we'll hear from Darlene again slightly on the financial report, but we'll also be in discussion for the budget planning process for the upcoming year, as per the charter. So there'll be presentation regarding projection of revenues for FY17, and as well as the major expense items. And then they get towards the conclusion of the meeting, Dr. Lang and perhaps members of the school committee will also be discussing this facilities assessment that they discussed at their last meeting, and probably be discussing tomorrow night as well, which is an article on the warrant. So it's because what happens after that is October 1st, we then submit out the annual budget request for capital and operating budget. So
When do you start the capital budget meetings?
They will start in November. Right, in November.
Okay.
So it's
Anything
a
else?
busy meeting next Monday.
I think in,
I think most
Yeah.
most of that turf field committees are gone, isn't it?
Most of what?
Most of the turf field committee, there's only, what, four?
There's the three of us.
And some
four.
departures, right.
Four of us.
Nick DeSilvio.
Right, he's no longer on the school committee.
Yeah.
The superintendent's
Oh, I
gone.
Well, but he could be a resident.
Visit manager's gone.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Resident representative.
We could come up with a plan, I guess. Yeah. No, people are aware of my office hours now at Panera from 5 to 6 on Thursdays. And 2 folks last week, so that's good. More than one is a bonus.
It's a crowd.
It is a crowd. My little table there. Any press questions this evening? I don't see anyone.
Press
No one made
left.
the full meeting. All right.
Move to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Thank you. Have a good evening, everyone.
What time is it? Oh, gosh.